8950. Again, 847-472-8950. That number, one more time, 847-472-8950. Or go to 560theanswer.com/food for the poor. That website again, 560theanswer.com/food for the poor.
Hey, I'm Steve Wyatt, and I want to invite you to the Wyatt Matters Show, which airs every Sunday on this station. You can expect lively discussion and heartfelt reflection that will both entertain and inspire you. And if we do it right, maybe deliver some genuine laughter as well. We talk about not only what matters, but also why it matters.
Wyatt Matters, Sunday morning at 6 on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Bob Chivato, owner of Go Exceed and a customer of Signature Bank. By leveraging AI and machine learning, we provide data management solutions for corporations to save time and money managing their cellular devices. While we rely on machines to help us run our business, we believe personal relationships are essential. This is why we chose Signature Bank. Having a banking partner who understands our background, our business, and our priorities is fundamental to our success. Any bank can provide basic services, but having a bank that you can trust, one that looks out for you and treats your business like its own, that's irreplaceable.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. The man accused of attacking National Guard members last month came here from Afghanistan, arriving without identification. President Trump has now announced a pause on immigration from third world countries. The goal is to ensure people from unstable regions can be properly vetted and to remove those who hate America. Predictably, critics on the left like Senator Mark Kelly are objecting, and just as predictably, they're crying racism. What nonsense. The issue isn't race, it's common sense. No responsible nation knowingly imports people who hate our country, our people, and our way of life, whatever color they are. The first duty of American leaders isn't to third world migrants. It's to protect their fellow citizens, the people who elected them, and to safeguard this country's security, stability, and freedom. If that means a pause on third world immigration, then so be it. I'm Carol Platt-Liebau.
Fearless conversations and sharp analysis of the stories that matter. It's the Aaron Mullins Show, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
I do find it a little bit off-putting when someone has a history of calling others out for being complicit via their silence to then occupy that space themselves. The hypocrisy is the issue I have.
The Aaron Mullins Show on the Salem Podcast Network. Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
It's hard to find a nursing home where Christ-centered care is provided. For over 130 years, Lutheran Life has served the needs of seniors at the Lutheran Home in Arlington Heights. With chaplains on full-time duty, the Lutheran Home provides spiritual support as your loved ones confront the hard realities of aging. Our nurses will care for your bodies, and our chaplains will care for your souls. Find out how by visiting LutheranLifeCommunities.org today. That's LutheranLifeCommunities.org.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be cold with a mix of sun and clouds, reaching a high of 28. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25. Tomorrow will be cloudy and cold with a high of 29. Sunday brings periods of morning snow accumulating 1 to 3 inches, along with low clouds and very cold temperatures, reaching a high of 27. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Health Quest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. And in addition to the label convicted felon and the label dictator, The neo-Marxists are doing their, making their best effort to tag Trump and his administration, Folden and Hegseth, as war criminals. So that briefing yesterday that was occurring more or less concurrent with our program yesterday, Admiral Mitch Bradley, who was the point person on the boat strike in question back in early September, in which there was a second strike. And, of course, as we discussed yesterday, the reporting prior to that briefing on the Hill, the classified briefing that Admiral Bradley was to give senators, we had reporting from ABC News, of all places, that in point of fact, there was narco-terrorists who were still engaged in the fight, which necessitated the second strike to fulfill the mission. And so it wasn't a Pete Hegseth kill everybody order. That didn't happen. And it wasn't executing survivors of an attack, the injured on the battlefield. It was eliminating those who were still engaged in the fight. ABC News reporting that. Martha Raddatz. Tom Cotton, senator from Arkansas, of course, Republican, had this to say after said briefing yesterday.
Yeah, I want to thank Admiral Bradley and General Kane for coming to brief about the strikes on September 2nd, which were righteous strikes. These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans. The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful, and they were exactly what we would expect our military commanders to do.
The Wall Street Journal opining on this. One reason this episode has mushroomed into is the administration isn't explaining the aims of its war in the Caribbean. Americans are open to getting tougher on drug cartels, and the president's powers to conduct foreign policy deserve a wide berth. But the administration will have to start explaining why it is asking men and women like Admiral Bradley to open fire. Yes and no. They've explained it quite well in terms of, and Trump in particular has explained it quite well in terms of his disposition towards drug traffickers, towards these cartels, international criminal organizations, some now designated as international terrorist organizations. And that's probably a expansion of the normal definition of terrorism we apply, people who use violence to advance political ends. But when you're using violence to advance sort of political and economic ends, because there's definitely a political component to the cartel's operation. Number one, control of the governments in their, where their base camps are, whether it's Mexico or Venezuela. So, so that's one aspect of it, and I want to develop that a bit more. So that's no, not really. There's been a pretty consistent explanation offered. The yes part, in terms of the administration could do a little bit more explaining, is ultimately what the president will have to do with members of Congress if indeed there's any sort of incursion on land in Venezuela for the purpose of deposing Maduro. That's a different story. But with respect to this, it's just not going to wash. As I said, I don't know that they care so much. They just want to be able to incorporate that label into their lingo, as you heard Ilhan Omar do earlier this week. You just add that to the laundry list of ad hominems they direct the president's way, most of which have no basis in fact. As a matter of fact, often they are 180 degrees from the truth in terms of what this president has done and is doing. Jim Himes is, again, one of these lesser known but equally incendiary rank and file members of the House Neo-Marxist Caucus, Democrat socialist from Connecticut. He's a button-down guy, sort of vanilla honky. You think, it's not the same as these flamboyant socialist Spice Girls. Yeah, well, then he says things like this.
By the way, there is no such thing as a narco-terrorist, Katie, but we're being told that these people are just so horribly awful that they're responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans, that they create mayhem and violence and stuff.
They don't? They're not? I mean, that's an odd way to talk about whether you want to use the term narco-terrorist or narcos, just these drug cartels or cartel, whatever you want to use. I mean, are we being too harsh in our assessment of international drug cartels? I mean, really? A remarkable statement, but this is a guy given to remarkable statements. It was just a few weeks ago that on the same topic he said this.
Lindsey Graham and other Republicans want to go the route of saying it's okay to kill people illegally just so long as the American public supports it. The American public needs to really think that through. There will be a Democratic president someday, and all my MAGA friends who are, cheering on these illegal killings need to imagine who gets killed when President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says that it doesn't matter what the law says. She's going to do what she's going to do. So look, I work here, so I understand the complete abnegation of principle and a complete thumbing of the nose at the rule of law, but I would hope that people like Lindsey Graham might not go that path, because it's a very, very dangerous path for this country to go down.
I mean, so I'm sorry, Representative Himes, what are you saying? AOC is going to retaliate for the Trump administration taking out members of drug cartels, narco traffickers, and terrorists by indiscriminately killing other people? What, people she disagrees with or something? People who voted for Trump? People who are part of the Trump administration? What are you talking about? And by the way, this idea that you just start from a baseline that these strikes are illegal, no. In point of fact, the evidence points decidedly in the other direction. Hugo Carvajal, Venezuela's former intel boss turned U.S. inmate, he has characterized in a prison letter to Trump, maybe he's trying to angle for a commutation and well, I don't know if he wants a repatriation, but a commutation. He called Maduro's government a narco-terrorist organization, said its top officials ran coke routes, that would be cocaine, to the U.S. with the help of FARC, ELN, Hezbollah, and even Cuban spies in the mix. So this once trusted enforcer has flipped. He says he's got documents, names, and a full blueprint of the regime's criminal web. And Jim Himes thinks he's scoring political points by getting into a semantics discussion about whether or not Maduro and the various instrumentalities of his narco state are terrorists. Okay. All right, well, you prosecute that case, Jim, and let us know how it goes for you. Vince in Waukegan, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan. The Democrats have no sense in their head when it comes to this issue. These drug runners, they terrorize people, they kill them, they murder their families, they torture people, and there's videos all over the internet showing that kind of stuff. These are terrorists. They use terrorist means to control governments. They're terrorists.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, as I said, I mean, there are political aims that dovetail with their economic aims. That's right. And, the other thing about trying to tag this president with the war criminal aspersion, I mean, this is one of those 180s. Every time you turn around, this guy is attempting to negotiate a peace deal or presiding over the consummation of one. And that was the case again this week when he essentially consummated a framework from the summer into an actual peace deal between Rwanda and Congo. So 2 African countries, and here is President Trump playing peacemaker.
Thanks to the efforts of Secretary Rubio and Mr. Boulos, Rwanda and the DRC reached a landmark agreement to move toward peace. They started the process. I met with some of their great representatives who are here also, and we started a great process. The compact we're signing today, which will be known as the Washington Accords, everybody sort of liked that name, formalizes the terms agreed to in June, including a permanent ceasefire, the disarmament of non-state forces, provisions for refugees to return to their homes, and justice and accountability for those who have committed illegal atrocities. Very importantly, this agreement also creates a new framework for economic prosperity. There's tremendous wealth in that beautiful earth. It's beautiful earth, but it was stained badly with blood, tremendous amounts of blood. But in the region that will support it.
So this war criminal and racist just birthed a peace deal between warring African nations. Oh, and by the way, for all of those on the left that consider themselves self-styled defenders of democracy, promoters of democracy, Maria Corina Machado, Nobel Peace Prize winner, and she won the Nobel Peace Prize this year, dedicated it to Trump upon victory, or upon the award. And this is because she's trying to restore some semblance of freedom in Venezuela. She's, a freedom fighter, on the outside, who's obviously an enemy of the Maduro dictatorship. She has a good piece in the New York Post. I'll just give you the top line. President Trump is a champion in the fight for Venezuelan freedom. The war criminal. The racist. Yeah, okay. Josh in Braidwood, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning. How you doing, Dan?
Good.
Good. Hey, if anybody has any questions about that the cartels aren't terrorists, all you have to do is go find Barry Seal's wife, the guy who was running the cocaine for the cartel in the 70s and 80s, and put her on the news and ask her how many people in her family the cartel murdered. And then case closed. There it is. Done. That's an American citizen telling you.
Thanks for the call, Josh. All right, coming up at 5:38, I want to discuss that CPS sexual abuse settlement, the largest in the school district's history. Really an under-discussed story, as it always is in the government school system on this matter of sexual abuse of children. We'll discuss that at 5:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is a very chilly 13 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. The mother of a 6-year-old boy is looking for answers after her son was dropped off by a school bus driver an hour early, leaving him alone out in the frigid air. CBS News Chicago reports that the child told school officials he didn't want to go to his normal after-school program, so staffers put him on a bus to take him home without notifying anyone. The bus driver then dropped the child off but did not see if there was an adult there to meet him and drove away. The mother said she was told that the standard procedure was for bus drivers to bring a child back to the school if a guardian is not there to meet them. According to the latest Illinois Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act notices, 1,138 employees across the state will be losing their jobs in the coming weeks. 714 of those job losses are in downtown Chicago, including nearly 500 layoffs at Norvax. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. There's never been a better time to buy blinds. Save up to 50% site-wide during Blindster.com's Cyber Week sale going on now. Their blinds are custom-made and guaranteed to fit. Skip the big box stores and order online for less. This sale ends soon, so go to Blindster.com today. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now...
Hugh Hewitt doesn't see the evidence.
Do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal, but certainly there are some legal gymnastics that are going on with these Caribbean strikes.
Why can't someone answer the question? Not one of them has been able to come up with one illegal order because they made it all up.
The Hugh Hewitt Show, afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you confident your IT systems are rock solid? There could be cracks you don't see. Don't leave your technology to chance. Take the Access One $10,000 challenge to find out. For more than 30 years, Access One has helped businesses strengthen their security, protect their data, and improve resistance to cyber vulnerabilities, all with reliable U.S.-based support. And here's our promise. If our experts can't identify at least one measurable improvement to your IT systems and processes based on NIST or CIS regulations, we'll reward your compliance excellence with $10,000. This free, confidential risk assessment is available to businesses with 25 to 500 employees, and it's a great way to verify your IT is secure and efficient. No gimmicks, just proven results from an experienced IT partner. Ready to put us to the test? Visit accessoneinc.com/challenge or call 800-654-1555 to schedule your assessment today. Certain conditions apply. See details online.
It's time for Cyber Monday, Dell Technologies' biggest sale of the year. Enjoy the lowest prices of the year on select PCs like the Dell 16 Plus featuring Intel Core Ultra processors. And with built-in advanced features, it's the PC that helps you do more faster. Plus, earn Dell rewards and enjoy many other benefits like free shipping, price match guarantee, and expert support. They also have huge deals on accessories that pair perfectly with your Dell PC and make perfect gifts for everyone on your list. Shop now at Dell.com/deals.
Every morning, we rise and shine, make breakfast, and brush away the night's rest. These routines help us start the day off right. Nature-Made vitamins are a simple step in that daily care regimen. Multivitamins with daily essentials, clinically studied probiotics for gut health support, magnesium to help relax the body. Nature-Made is made to care for you every day. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Check off the wish list with instant savings and free battery offers on select Steel tools. Shop online or in store.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be cold with a mix of sun and clouds reaching a high of 28. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25. Tomorrow will be cloudy and cold with a high of 29. On Sunday, there will be periods of snow in the morning, accumulating 1 to 3 inches, while the rest of the day will bring low clouds and very cold temperatures, reaching a high of 27. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. The Chicago Board of Education, Board of Maleducation, day before yesterday, approved a $17.5 million settlement for a former student known only as Jane Doe in court records, who was sexually abused by a former dean at a Little Village high school. Largest settlement for school sex abuse case in Illinois history. Did you catch that? The largest settlement for a school sex abuse case in Illinois history is not at some archdiocesan school. It's at a high school in Little Village. The dean there, who I believe got sentenced to 22 years in prison, a guy named Crowder, started messaging the girl when she was 16, a high school junior. He brought her to his home, twice posed as her stepfather when she became pregnant so she could get an abortion. The abuse continued after she left high school. CPS removed him from the school in 2021 after the student, now 24, filed a police report. And again, this summer sentenced to 22 years in prison, convicted of sexual assault and sexual abuse of a minor. We recognize the seriousness of the allegations in this matter and the impact the student has reported experiencing. What kind of statement is that? That's a statement from CPS. Of course it is. Politburo quality. We recognize the seriousness of the allegation. He's convicted. What do you mean the allegations? Oh, the allegations of CPS negligence. Sure. Yeah. Those are only allegations because they're not admitting wrongdoing. They're just paying out the largest settlement for a sex abuse case in Illinois school history. Recognize the seriousness of the allegations in the matter, the impact that the student has reported experiencing. Well, the impact that the student has reported experiencing, that's where the part about him being a convicted sexual predator comes in. But okay. Chicago Public Schools takes all reports of misconduct seriously, and the district remains committed to the safety and well-being of every student entrusted to our care. There's that line again. How committed they are to the safety and well-being of every student entrusted to our care. You're committed to it. How are you doing? The watchdog overseeing the district, CPS, says his office is investigating fewer cases involving allegations of sexual misconduct by adults against students. Those schools are reporting a similar number of allegations. Come again? The number of allegations is where it has been recently, but they're investigating fewer cases. 2 years ago, a unit within the CPS Inspector General's office that investigates sexual allegations opened 463 cases. Last year, it opened 246 cases. This year, it's only opened 51 cases through the end of November. The decrease, according to the Inspector General, follows a decision by that office to prioritize investigating more severe allegations, such as those involving sexual abuse and sexual acts. Strong effort on our part to reduce our case volume and make a large dent into our backlog. 463 to 246 to 51. Since the Inspector General launched its sexual allegations unit 7 years ago, it has opened 2,731 cases and closed 2,401 cases. Investigators substantiated allegations in 471 of those cases, about 10% of which involve findings of sexual abuse or sexual acts. I'd like to hear the drill down on the others, but okay. So in the last 7 years, 47, let's say, just take their numbers as given, 2,700 plus cases, closed 2,400 cases, substantiated allegations in 471 cases, 10% involve findings of sexual abuse. Okay, so 47 cases over the last 7 years where the Inspector General's office in the Chicago Public School System has substantiated claims of sexual abuse or sexual acts. And this is not a scandal of particular interest? 47? If 47 instances of an adult committing sexual crimes against children happened in a much smaller school district, like the Archdiocese, for example, do you think the coverage and the interest would be the same, which is to say non-existent? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Well, I know if it's a smaller school or school system, Dan, then it's a higher per capita incidence, right? 47 cases is not a lot. And I'm just taking as given that drill down offered by the Inspector General. I'd love to see the details on it, but let's just take it as given for the sake of this discussion. I think the school district is in a far better place than it was in 2018, said the IG. The more we can just continue with outreach and training and awareness, the more we can protect children. The law firm that represented the former student who received that $17.5 million settlement noted that the district has changed some of its policies and conducted training in the aftermath of the Tribune's reporting some 7 or 8 years ago on this very matter. The jarring number of instances of allegations of sexual abuse of children in the school system. And there have been enough convictions, and according to the IG's own accounts, enough instances where those allegations, sexual predation, have been substantiated, that you would think there'd be more interest in this. But I understand why there isn't. Protect the shield. Everybody's got to protect this thing they're a part of. First and foremost, as I said yesterday, if you're on the gravy train, you don't shoot the conductor. So first and foremost, their livelihoods. Many of these people would not make the money and have the guarantees for retirement anywhere else that they enjoy biding their time in CPS and presiding over one of the worst public school systems, government school systems in the Western Hemisphere. The whole thing, as I've said many times, is a criminal organization as far as I'm concerned, because it is set up to rob 90% of the kids in the system of the opportunity to even earn a quality education. Now you're layering in these other grotesque occurrences like the sexual abuse of children. Where is everybody on this topic? In point of fact, I remarked, as we've talked intermittently over the years, about that Tribune investigative story from 7-8 years back. Where are the trial lawyers? Especially since they hold themselves out, like everybody else, to be the great protector of the little guy, the great provider of safety and a better tomorrow for Illinois families and children. Mm-hmm. Well, we finally got one here. But what about the other 471 cases where credible allegations of misconduct were made, according to the Inspector General, about 10% of which were of a nature of sexual abuse? Where's Stacey Davis Gates? Remember, she bristles at the notion when people say they're not, you think they're your children. When parents say that, especially conservatives, the union thinks the kids are their kids. And she says, you're damn right there are kids. Damn right they are. Okay, Mom. What about it? What's going on in the family there in CPS? (312-642-5600) turnkey.pro answer line. Ray, Northside.
Hey, I was just calling in to say that one good thing came out of COVID. They were able to do remote learning, so they didn't have as much contact with the children. And so I think it worked out to about 300, if my math is correct, give or take, cases per year. And so even though our reading levels and math levels are down, one good thing came out of it: less contact with the teachers.
Thanks for the call. Boy, yeah. Not much of a silver lining, is it? Paul and Carrie are on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey,
Dan. I think I know the answer to my question, but I just need to hear it. Who actually pays these settlements? And the second part of my question is, if in fact we, the taxpayers, are paying it, and it's not an insurable policy, if you will, do we not have some sort of recourse as taxpayers where these funds are going for all these various settlements?
Yeah, well, thanks for the call, Paul. Yeah, you have recourse. It's called an election. And for city offices, for school board seats now, it's to, I don't know, try to figure out a way to drive parents and other stakeholders into actual engagement with this grotesque system. The settlement, $10 million, will come out of the CPS general fund. $7.5 million of it covered by the insurance policy. Of course, I mean it's all taxpayer money. Pay the premiums for the insurance policy that now is paying out $7.5 million of the $17.5 million settlement. Matt, Mount Greenwood.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Just reiterating what you said. Yeah, they're protecting their own, and obviously the media is behind it. But maybe there's a silver lining in the Illinois trial attorneys, the Vile group. Maybe now that one of their owners get paid and paid well from this, they're going to take advantage of it and feed at the trough of the taxpayer. So maybe there'll be more prosecution of these cases. That's all we can pray for.
Well,
have a good day.
Yeah, thanks for the call. Well, I mean, but tell me more about the systems in place. Tell me more about this new training. Yeah, it's the same conversation we have about things like, I don't know, coming to this country. Tell me about the vetting process. What you were doing or not doing 7 or 8 years ago when the Tribune first broke this story wide open, and what you're doing now. And some sort of evidence of improvement. I know the Inspector General is suggesting there has been significant improvement. Maybe. Open-minded on the topic. I'd like to hear more details. And obviously not enough improvement because it's still happening. So what else do you have planned? George in Naperville.
Yes, good morning, Dan. It sounds like CPS is in need of sexual predator interrupters.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe they can convert those safe passage escorts into sexual predator interrupters in the schools. Safe passage. Remember the safe passage to the schools? Uh-huh. Chris, Dan Ryan, on the Dan Ryan.
Yeah, quick question. So, like the 471 cases you talked about, I wonder how many of those were actually paid out. So that no news or nothing could be recordable on that. You know what I mean? Like if you just keep your mouth shut, say we'll pay you this much money, and then we'll take it off the books. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks for the call. Non-disclosure on a civil suit when there's no underlying criminal prosecution. I mean, it's a good question. That's why I'd love to talk to the Inspector General for CPS, because his testimony to the school board was incomplete, as you can imagine. They're not really interested in asking any impertinent questions, probing the issue. They're just interested in sitting back and congratulating themselves for their earnestness and their good intentions and how much progress they think they've made. Jordan in Antioch.
Good morning. Yeah, isn't it just like Illinois, though? If you don't report it, you don't arrest them. There's no laws. If you don't report it, it didn't happen. If there's no news, it definitely didn't really happen. But here's the more disturbing thing, and this is what really bothered me since I first heard about this case. I think it was last year. How many other teachers and administrators or deans or whatever are impregnating high school students and then taking them to an abortion clinic, posing as a relative, because it's no questions asked, because of our degenerate dirtbag state politicians that passed a law saying minors can have abortions no questions asked. How many other students have been impregnated by these people? And how many times do we not hear about it? I've asked Chicago teachers that I know that I've met at, baseball tournaments and stuff, and they're crickets. They know nothing about this. How you got a dean impregnating a student and then taking her for multiple abortions? Forget the settlement. I mean, the guy should be strung up, and whoever knew about it should be strung up. And our politicians, same thing. And now they just passed a law saying that you can turn your kid over to be mentally evaluated and possibly medicated without your permission or your knowledge. I mean, wake up, people.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, you're right about the Sergeant Schultz routine. I know nothing. Nobody does. And the Inspector General is at least providing some detail, and is doing some important investigative work. So I don't want to discount that position and that individual in that office altogether. However, the whole, sexual predation of kids in CPS is down. It just rings to me like Brandon Johnson telling us how much crime is down under his watch. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Dan Proft here to tell you about our 2025 Food for the Poor campaign. If you've listened to the station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They are a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local partners in Latin America and the Caribbean. We all know about how bad the situation is in Latin America and the Caribbean right now. Economic decline, political instability and corruption, and high food prices. The only thing standing between these families and starvation is Food for the Poor and their partners who are providing life-saving food relief on the ground. But in order to get food and water to those who need it most, Food for the Poor needs your help. Your gift of just $150 can provide food and water for 2 children for an entire year. For a gift of $300, you can provide food and water for 4 children for an entire year. To make a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673. That's 844-862-4673. Or visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 6:06. Dan Bongino says the G got their man. We talked about it during the show yesterday, but the details hadn't been released. The details have now been released on the J-6 pipe bomber. We'll go over what the FBI had to say and take your observations and questions. 6:06. It's now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
A suspected bomber faces the judge. I'm Kathleen Maloney, Fox News. A Virginia man accused of putting 2 pipe bombs outside both Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters almost 5 years ago is expected in court this afternoon.
The suspect, 30-year-old Brian Cole Jr., is facing 2 federal charges: transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and attempted malicious destruction by means of fire and explosive materials. Investigators say it was a new look at old information in the original file that broke the case. Authorities spent the majority of Thursday outside Cole's home in a Washington suburb. According to court documents, cell phone pings indicate Cole's cell phone was in the area of the RNC and DNC the night of the crime, the night before the U.S. Capitol riot. But investigators have not publicly shared why Cole allegedly targeted the DNC and RNC headquarters.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. The Trump administration targets another boat in international waters.
The U.S. military says it conducted another lethal kinetic strike on a boat operated by a designated terrorist organization, this time killing 4 men. U.S. Southern Command posted on X that intelligence confirmed the vessel was carrying illicit narcotics and transiting along a known narco-trafficking route in the Eastern Pacific. This marks the 22nd strike on suspected drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean and Pacific, bringing the total killed to 86. Carmen Roberts, Fox News.
The mercury taking a deep dive in the mid-Atlantic with temperatures in the teens in parts of New York and Philadelphia, where this girl is dressed for the cold plunge.
Sweatpants, 2 pairs of pants, and 2 socks on, and Uggs on.
Sounds like a good wardrobe for the weather. Many other parts of the country are seeing snow on top of the cold. America's listening to Fox News.
WIND, Chicago.
Good morning. It is 14 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. A Chicago-based disability rights organization is seeking a meeting with Governor J.B. Pritzker's office as Illinois prepares for a possible action on legislation that would legalize physician-assisted suicide in the state. Katrina Barker has the story.
Sebastian Knowles, a policy analyst at Access Living, said the group has formally requested a meeting but has not yet received a response.
So at this point in time, we don't have a timeline on it. We would hope that is sooner rather than later.
Knowles points to issues raised by disability advocates nationally, including concerns about inadequate oversight and potential for coercion. He referenced other states' reporting systems, arguing that they do not provide a clear mechanism to track possible abuse.
If you go and you look at individual states that have passed this, there is no mechanism that is dedicated to reporting abuse and coercion for accessing assisted suicide, for individuals who are accessing this.
I'm Katrina Barker.
A hearing is scheduled for January 8th after plaintiffs filed a motion to dismiss their lawsuit seeking to redistrict federal immigration officials' use of force here in Chicago. U.S. District Court Judge Sarah Ellis had issued a preliminary injunction blocking federal agents from using physical force or riot control weapons during Operation Midway Blitz, but the 7th Court of Appeals paused Ellis's injunction last month. An Illinois man has pleaded guilty to attempted kidnapping charges. According to reports, Devontae Shields admitted that he had planned to go to Florida and kidnap a child and then hold him for ransom. A text message from Shields showed that he had planned to use candy and toys to entice a boy to come with him. This news update is quickly delivered to you by Quick Delivery Service. Why are you sitting in Friday traffic? Time is money. When you need your important items delivered quickly, Quick Delivery Service will be there to pick it up and take it to its destination. Go to quickdelivery.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
This December could be one that you'll always remember if you enter the Roland's Jewelers 12 Days of Christmas contest. You could win a $200 gift card from Roland's Jewelers in Libertyville. We're drawing 12 winners throughout the month of December, and you could be one of them. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/gift. That's 560theanswer.com/gift.
This holiday season, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is delivering dozens of mortgage-free homes to deserving recipients during its annual Season of Hope. Tunnel to Towers welcomed U.S. Army Captain David Christopher into his mortgage-free smart home during a prior Season of Hope. David sustained catastrophic injuries in the line of duty. During this Season of Hope, let's make a difference in the lives of those who have sacrificed so much for our safety and freedom. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
So Pure Talk is offering unlimited talk, text, and data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $29.95 a month for life. Not your phone's life, your life. This top-tier plan is normally $65 a month, but if you switch today, you'll save over 50% every month for the rest of your life. You might say it's the deal of your lifetime. Just dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe. Offer expires 12/7. Some restrictions apply. Details at puretalk.com.
You okay down there?
I tripped over old china boxes in the basement, and now I'm stuck behind the ping pong table we never use.
I'm coming to the rescue, if I can find you.
You know, If we finished this basement, we could actually enjoy this space.
I think it's time to call Forever Remodeling.
Forever Remodeling turns disaster zones into game rooms, guest bedrooms and bathrooms, home theaters, a custom space just for you. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com.
Space Force Commander Matt Lohmeyer stood up against the Marxist agenda threatening our military.
Your ideology doesn't matter one bit.
Share your pronouns in your email.
He knew that if he didn't speak up, no one else was going to speak up.
Initiate difficult conversations about racial and gender barriers.
Race identity politics, critical race theory, white fragility, white guilt.
Don't miss the new movie Call Sign Courage, the Matt Lohmeyer story.
We need lethality in the military, period.
Watch it now or buy the DVD at salemnow.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Starting the morning off with stop-and-go delays on the Eisenhower inbound right at Laramie Avenue, all because of an accident. 2 left lanes are blocked. So inbound from Wolf to the old post office is 17 minutes. Outbound is 14. Now the Eden is 14 minutes in both directions from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Byrne interchange looking good. It's 18 minutes inbound. Outbound is 22. You got 19 minutes inbound on the Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore. Outbound is 16, and 14 minutes inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th Street to the Byrne interchange. Outbound is 11. We are slow on the inbound express lanes as you approach the Stevenson. This report is a service of Fox Valley Coins in Naperville. Easy to get off I-88 on Route 59 in Naperville. Family-owned integrity since 1981. FoxValleyCoins.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be cold with a mix of sun and clouds, reaching a high of 28. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25. Tomorrow will be cloudy and cold with a high of 29. On Sunday, there will be periods of snow in the morning, accumulating 1 to 3 inches, while the rest of the day will bring low clouds and very cold temperatures, reaching a high of 27. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft. So late in the show yesterday, came over the transom that an arrest had been made in the planting of pipe bombs on January 6th, the night before, outside the DNC and the RNC. But we didn't have the details on the individual. They just said it was a male. So we got the details now, as I'm sure most of you listening know. And this is something, really. This is pretty next level reporting from Jake Tapper. Take a listen. Have you seen this guy, Brian Cole? Everybody seen a picture of him? Take a listen to Jake Tapper's reporting yesterday.
Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction by means of explosion.
Just a modest point of order. Brian Cole is a black dude. I mean, it's neither here nor there, but we have so many of these instances. I mean, I've got 4 other stories of Somali migrants that have been arrested for committing crimes here, and in the police report, they're and in the media reports, they're identified as white. I mean, the mistakes always in one direction raise the specter of skepticism about motives, don't they? I mean, his picture is everywhere. Jake Tapper goes on CNN and says, a white guy. Don't believe your lying eyes. Honey, am I going colorblind, or is that a black gentleman? Okay. Anyway, the more important matter, although that's important in a sort of quasi-humorous sense. I mean, the more important point, of course, is this the guy? And is this the guy and only the guy? Dan Bongino was on with Hannity yesterday offering this.
Yeah, that's why I said to you this investigation's just begun. We are pretty comfortable. We have our guy. I think as again, legal process starts to surface and information, facts start to come out, the public's going to be very comfortable with the investigation that was conducted under Director Patel and his leadership. He's been great on this. But I don't want to... listen, I was paid in the past, Sean, for my opinions. That's clear. And one day I'll be back in that space. But that's not what I'm paid for now. I'm paid to be your deputy director. And we base investigations on facts. And, it was interesting. I was looking out in the crowd today at the presser, and I saw a couple of media figures who you and I both know who promoted the other scandal, the collusion hoax. And I thought to myself, the difference between us and them is, we evolve. As information and new inputs come out, we can produce different outputs because that's what we believe in. We believe in facts and investigations guided by facts. There were people out there in that crowd, I'm sure still believe in this collusion fairy tale hoax. So we'll see. We're going to be guided by the facts as this thing goes forward.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? The interesting, a couple of interesting aspects of this. One is there was no new evidence, according to them. They just went back and reviewed all the evidence that had been collected. I guess the previous regime, and I'm not just talking about Biden, I'm also talking about Chris Wray, didn't really have any sense of urgency about trying to identify the person responsible. Gee, I wonder why. Better to just... layer this aspect of that fateful day, just layer this in as part of, the insurrection that Trump instigated. And oh my gosh, they tried to kill, MAGA, tried to kill Kamala Harris. When in point of fact, what we understand about this Virginia man, this white man from Virginia, as Jake Tapper might say, is that he was an extremist in the direction, potentially, of anarchy. Well, MS Now, MSNBC, so the suspect had been tied to statements supporting anarchist ideology. The Washington Post also had some sources that described him as a political extremist. So that sort of doesn't... We don't have a motive. There was not a stated motive given from the perspective of law enforcement, what they believe to be the motivation. Lives at this pretty fancy home in suburban Virginia with his mom. But we don't know a lot, and we didn't really get much color on why this evidence didn't lead to this guy over the course of the last nearly 5 years. Yeah, so obviously the insinuation of slow walking by the Biden administration. I'd like to hear Cash and Dan talk specifically about Wray and company and what the FBI did or didn't do, particularly since I imagine there's a lot of personnel that span the last 5 years there. Maybe were initially involved in this investigation. I'd like to get more of the backstory here. Tell me the full story. Don't give me we got our guy and the investigation continues and we'll go wherever the evidence leads and so forth. I'd like to get all of the gory details.
Tom and Elgin, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer. Yeah, the Blaze already reported they did some body recognition camera work, and they came up with who this woman was that was planting the bombs. And went from the Capitol Police to the CIA, and now all of a sudden, nothing on that. And then 3 weeks later, we got our guy. Yeah, okay. Conspiracy Tom has spoken. I cry foul again.
Okay. Conspiracy Tom has spoken. All right, Conspiracy Tom. He's talking about a woman, and I saw the Blaze story. I didn't talk about it because, I was not persuaded by the quote-unquote, scientific match they did that was a 94 to 98% match. Based on a forensic gait, meaning walk analysis. Okay. So I'm not kidding. The woman's name is Shawnee Kirchhoff. That's who the Blaze had identified. And I didn't hear a question about that yesterday, and I didn't hear, Tango or Cash try to provide any proactive information to those ends. They just said that, as you heard Bongino saying, Hannity, we got our guy, and the investigation is ongoing. It's sort of what Cash did when he sat down recently with Catherine Herridge to talk about Butler, Pennsylvania, and where the investigation stands with respect to that assassination attempt on President Trump's life, that, of course, took the life of Corey Comparatori. This is what Cash had to say about Thomas Crooks in his sit-down with Catherine Herridge recently.
Just to be clear, did Thomas Crooks act alone?
Yes, based on the evidence that we have, that is the conclusive finding of the matter.
Is there evidence of foreign involvement?
There, as we indicated in our public disclosures, Thomas Crooks had some online platforms where he engaged through email with a couple of individuals overseas, and we chased those down literally to the end, and basically it was just that, online email accounts overseas without any substantive communications.
What was Thomas Crooks' motive?
He, as has been publicized, had a basically hateful relationship with the United States government, talked disparagingly about both political parties, to include President Trump, and talked about the need to take matters into his own hands, and unfortunately that's what he did.
Satisfied? I'm satisfied on one and or both counts. The J6 pipe bomber, the would-be assassin in Butler. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. I saw some of the reaction online, and there was a lot of cynicism along the lines of what Conspiracy Tom from Elgin just had to say. Dan in Salem, Wisconsin.
Hey, Dan, this Brian Cole Jr., the Democrats are going to just say, well, he's the black face of white supremacy now.
They're going to Larry Elder him. Yeah,
yep,
right.
Yep, Larry Elder, yep.
Thanks for the call. Craig, Mount Greenwood.
Oh, hey. Good morning, Dan, and thanks for taking my call. I don't believe a word of all that bulldog. You got these three-letter agencies that have been for decades all over the globe using all these different tactics they have using these different people, and they find these punks like this and everything like that to use them. They need to question this guy. They need to find out who's pulling the strings and everything. Because everything about it, that pipe bomb was used as a predicate to take and do a lot more with pulling the trap on the conservatives and the Trump followers and that. That was never intended to blow up or anything like that. But they had to go in there and say, oh, yeah, it's a real bomb, it's a real thing, and all stuff like that. And it's a three-letter agency that's got to be behind it because they were involved in all kinds.
Thanks for the call, Craig. I mean, I take your point. Here's the problem. I mean, far be it from me to give any advice to Tango and Cash or President Trump or anybody else. But if it was me, say if it was me in one of those positions, you know what I wouldn't do? I wouldn't say things like this. What the Pamela Smith, who's the Metro D.C. police chief, had to say, quoting her. What I will say today is that Washingtonians can rest easier today knowing that the suspect responsible for this act is now in custody. I'm sure, the existence of this pipe bomber was keeping Washingtonians up at night. And what Bongino said, you're not going to walk into our capital city, put down 2 explosive devices, walk off into the sunset. Not going to happen. We were going to track this person to the end of the earth. There was no way he was getting away. That's what I wouldn't do. Give me the tough G-man talk. The jingoistic law enforcement rap. Just tell me what you know. Tell me what you found out, how you found it out. Don't pretend that you don't know what's swirling out there and address it straight away. Just spare me the chest beating, would you, please? Or let me put it this way. I would spare the public the chest beating. Wrapping myself in, mom and apple pie. It feels forced. It feels like, okay, that's a wrap. We don't need to ask any more questions. No. And I would particularly err on the side of a fulsome, detailed account of the last 4 years leading up to this arrest. As far as you know, from talking to people that preceded you, as well as working with people under you at present. Particularly important when trust is so low in these agencies. And frankly, the trust that a lot of people had going in for Cash and Tango, if I may, has been diminished somewhat because of the handling of the Epstein files. These statements, these are sort of canned press release bullet points. They sound like politicians. Rick and Joliet.
Hey, Dan. I've lost a fair amount of faith even in the new leadership of the FBI, but one of the things I had seen online, and I'm not sure who they were addressing this to, I thought maybe it was the Capitol Police, but the question was, after you found this pipe bomb, how wide was the scope of search for other devices? And you could see the, freezing of the face of the person that was asked that. Well, what do you mean? We mean, were you suspicious there were others? This is why this whole thing stinks to me. And it's exactly along the lines of what you say is this, we got our guy, nothing to see here crap. But when you ask very common sense questions about it, you not only don't get an answer, but you get this shocked look like, oh, my God, I didn't expect that to be asked. Well, how couldn't you? That's all I got, Dan. Have a great day.
Thanks for the call, Rick. Roger DeKalb.
Hey, Dan. I'm sorry for all the conspiracy theorists out there, but it's pretty obvious all the three-letter agencies, they found all this out, and they didn't release it because it didn't fit any narrative they wanted. Was it Christopher Wray? That's what we need to know. Who's behind burying that evidence? If all the evidence was there, and that's what they're claiming, and they just looked at it again, then somebody buried that information. That's not a conspiracy. That's a crime or a cover-up at that high level. And that's what we need to know. I'm not a conspiracy guy, so there's usually facts behind things that are right there in the open. If you can't see that they buried it to bury the narrative, then I'm sorry. That's, I think, what it was. So.
Well, right. Thanks for the call, Roger. But I mean, again, that supposition, that should have been addressed yesterday. You just told, I mean, think, Tango and Cash, if you're on the other side listening to this back in your days as commentators and podcasters and all that, talk show hosts, and you heard a couple of G-men give you this line, what would you be asking? What would you say? Well, tell me what happened. You just told me that there's no new evidence. There's just a fresh look at the evidence that was pulled together over the last 4 years. Well, how did you guys find what was missed for the last 4 years? Simple question. I mean, walk us through it. Why not? Are you protecting Chris Wray? Do you think you're enhancing the reputation of the FBI, restoring its good name or something like this? I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. By the way, interesting, just sort of side note, his father, that white dude, a white man has been Brian Cole's father was once defended by well-known race hustling trial attorney Ben Crump. This is not a particularly interesting deal, but except for one thing I just had to get to. He wanted to sell his bail bondsman business that he had in Tennessee. The guy who was arrested's dad wanted to, and somebody in Tennessee was blocking it, and so he enlisted Ben Crump to call him a racist, and the usual routine, and then it got sold. But the name of Cole Sr.'s bail bondsman business, Free at Last Bail Bonding. I mean, that's pretty good. It's a little, I don't know if that is real, it's much of a tribute to Martin Luther King Jr., but it is a pretty memorable, creative, naming of a bail bondsman business. I don't know. I just thought that was rather humorous, so I thought I'd share it in case people missed it. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Everyone is watching major movements ripple through the markets these days, sparked by new policy shifts out of Washington and activity from the Federal Reserve. Americans have faced uncertainty before, and every time, we've found our footing again. The real secret to long-term financial peace is simple. Keep your eyes on the horizon and understand the fundamentals that drive real stability. That's exactly why Advantage Gold is inviting you to call 800-741-GOLD right now. We'll send you a free Gold IRA rollover kit, along with a complimentary copy of economist Ken Rogoff's insightful book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. Inside, you'll learn how to defend your retirement savings against inflation, market swings, and reckless fiscal policies, with tangible assets like precious metals that have preserved wealth for centuries. It's no wonder Advantage Gold has been America's #1 gold company for the past decade. Take a smart step toward protecting what you've earned. Call 800-741-GOLD. That's 800-741-4653. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-GOLD.
Dan Proft here to tell you about an opportunity for you to promote your business and to make a difference this Christmas season. I'm talking about our Food for the Poor Business Benefactor Program. We've partnered with Food for the Poor to provide life-saving food and water for thousands of children and their families in Latin America and the Caribbean. Your business can be a part of this effort. Become a Food for the Poor business benefactor by making a $2,500 tax-deductible donation to Food for the Poor. That donation will help more than 30 children for an entire year. And when you do that, AM 560 will give you 40 one-minute commercials to air here on AM 560 The Answer between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday at no additional cost to you. To take advantage of this deal, just call John Gallagher at 847-472-8950. Again, that's 847-472-8950. One more time, the number, 847-472-8950. Or go to 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. That website again, 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor.
The biggest time of the year for stores is during the Christmas season. And if you deal in collector coins, the main source for inventory is from people like you. We want to have our showcases fully stocked before Christmas. Last Christmas, gold was the highest ever recorded in its 5,000-year run. We don't always know if precious metals will go up or down. We're saying that if you don't appreciate that collection Grandpa left, you may want to at least find out what you can get for it. Fox Valley Coins is the trusted place where people come to buy and sell their precious metals, rare coins, and paper money. We're especially interested in purchasing now through the first week of December. And we'll still be buying after we get back from the Christmas break, but we need to purchase now. Fox Valley Coins is located one light north of I-88 on Route 59 on the Naperville-Warrenville border. We'll be closed Christmas Eve through Monday, January 4th, celebrating Jesus' birth with family and for year-end inventory. Merry Christmas from Fox Valley Coins. Family-owned integrity since 1981. FoxValleyCoins.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, we've got some breaking news. Jake Tapper has identified the accomplices in that J6 pipe bombing. They are two MAGA gentlemen who assaulted Jussie Smollett in Chicago. You remember them? I can't take credit for this. This is the work of the Amish texter. Very good. Yeah. Put a little white powder on the Ascendario brothers and a MAGA hat, and they're, three MAGA honkies responsible for the pipe bombing incident on January 6th. Brother. Coming up at 6:36, speaking of honkies, Tampon Tim, Field Marshal Tim up there, the daffy governor of Minnesota, he's a little afeared because people are driving by his house calling him names. We'll start there in a larger and ultimately more serious discussion about ICE activity in Minnesota, New Orleans, and elsewhere. 6:36, now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 15 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. According to the latest Illinois Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act notices, 1,138 employees across the state will be losing their jobs in the coming weeks. 714 of those job losses will be in downtown Chicago, including nearly 500 layoffs at Norvax. Governor J.B. Pritzker says the state will be spending taxpayer money, and he wishes it could be more to celebrate the United States' 250th anniversary next year. Jim Talamonte reports.
A reporter asked Pritzker how much taxpayer money would be spent on the celebrations.
Each of the departments has a little bit of the budget of it. It's really not very expensive. I honestly wish that we were able to spend more.
The governor said local, county, and township governments are sharing the cost of local events.
This report is a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. That's 56david.com, lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Scott Jennings sees a disconnect.
So when asked what illegal orders the president has given, Slotkin couldn't identify a single one, and then she justified her calls for mutiny in the military by citing Nuremberg and a Hollywood movie. Folks, these Democrats may not be living in reality. Their lack of connection to planet Earth is getting dangerous.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at 1, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Salem News Channel, your go-to source for news and conservative opinion. We reveal how politics hits home, how your family, your freedoms, your way of life are debated, challenged, even regulated. Every day we cut through the noise, pitting nonsense against common sense. On every screen, in every home. Salem News Channel is across America.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
You know, nothing beats the comfort of a perfectly heated home.
And when it comes to heating your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Air Right Heating and Cooling is fast. When your furnace breaks down, they'll fix it right away.
Just like that. Big time results. No waiting around. You get the job done right. And let's face it, who doesn't love being warm, right? It's beautiful. When it's freezing, I crank up that amazing furnace. Burn, baby, burn. Trust me, you'll say, wow, I've never felt this warm in my life.
If you like keeping your hard-earned money, then contact Air Right Heating and Cooling. Tell them AM 560 sent you, and right now you'll receive $56 off any service.
Unbelievable.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still slow on the inbound Eden into Laramie Avenue, but an accident just cleared away. So it's 24 minutes inbound from Wolf to the old post office. Outbound is 14. No major slowdowns on the Eden at all. Just 14 minutes both ways from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange also looking good. 18 minutes. Outbound is 22. The Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 22 minutes. Outbound is 16. The Dan Ryan looks good. Inbound from 95th to the Byrne Interchange, 15 minutes. Outbound is 11. A little bit sluggish in the express lanes approaching the Stevenson. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. There's never been a better time to buy blinds. Save up to 50% statewide during Blindster.com's Cyber Week sale going on now. Their blinds are custom made and guaranteed to fit. Skip the big box stores and order online for less. The sale ends soon, so go to Blindster.com today. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be cold with a mix of sun and clouds, reaching a high of 28. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25. Tomorrow will be cloudy and cold with a high of 29. Sunday brings periods of morning snow accumulating 1 to 3 inches, along with low clouds and very cold temperatures, reaching a high of 27. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning. Dan Proft here. The Pajamas Boy poster boy for the Obamacare campaign from 15 years ago. He became the mayor of what used to be known as Minneapolis, Minnesota. You've heard this, right? Jacob Frey. Doing his best tough guy impersonation of J.B. Pritzker. A couple of bad hombres. J.B. and Jacob Frey. They're rough and tumble. They're ready to go, Trump administration.
What you see is a visual representation of we have your back, and when you come for one of us, you come for all of us.
Okay. All right.
We reject the hateful rhetoric of Donald Trump.
When you come for one of us, you come for all of us. And when you come for all of us, you come through.
Someone who intends to come take away the freedom and opportunity and dignity of Illinoisans, I would remind you that a happy warrior is still a warrior. You come for my people, you come through me.
Those two warriors, Jacob and JB. Ooh. Okay. Thank you for throwing down the gauntlet, however comical that was. In Minneapolis, the fallout continues from not just these performances by the politicians there, but more importantly from the massive fraud story where taxpayers were bilked out of more than $1 billion. And as has been reported now in many outlets, some of that money made its way to Islamist terrorist organizations like Al-Shabaab, more money repatriated back to Somali from Somalis in America than the Somali federal budget last fiscal year. A good piece by Barton Swaim in the Journal on this topic. He compares the Somali fraud scandal to the Pakistani sexual abuse scandal in England. Gangs, mostly of Pakistani men, sexually abusing young girls, even as the country's government and news media looked the other way, because they were more terrified about accusations of racism or Islamophobia than they were protecting young girls in Britain. And it's the same thing in Minneapolis, right? More afraid of allegations of racism or Islamophobia than in protecting taxpayers' dollars. And ensuring that these transfer payment programs were accessed only by those qualified to access them. Assisting, to the extent that these programs actually assist, those the programs were intended to assist. Both scandals, writes Swaim, in the UK and Minnesota raise a question most of us would rather not consider. That of large-scale immigration from predominantly Muslim countries. It's true that other ethnic immigrant groups, Italians in the 20th century most famously, imported forms of criminality from the home country. It's also true that Minnesota's roughly 80,000-strong Somali community contains many industrious people and good citizens. But an unbiased observer could be forgiven for thinking that Minnesota's Somali population isn't capable of assimilation. He cites an essay on this topic that was done by a journalist named Armin Rosen for an outlet called County Highway. It's an extended essay on this topic. I mean, this is really the reason this ultimately got to the New York Times and has now become generally known is because of all the work that was done for years prior by our friends at PowerlineBlog.com, Scott Johnson, John Hinderaker, and journalists, independent journalists like this Armin Rosen, picking it up and really getting into the gist of it. From his essay, Rosen's essay. Bad actors within the community would approach potential co-conspirators without any fear of betrayal. Even the people who said no to phenomenal offers of tens of thousands of dollars in free taxpayer money didn't inform the authorities that a major community-wide fraud against the public was in progress. Potentially criminal oddities went almost totally unreported to anyone in government. The FBI learned about Feeding Our Future, a nonprofit that was one of the main vehicles for fraud, from a whistleblower in the Department of Education and not from any of the scam's ground-level witnesses or participants. He writes that, Barton Swaim does now back, large-scale Muslim immigration is a far bigger problem for Europe than for America. However, the president, he writes, Trump, is not wrong to sense something deeply amiss in a community of Americans so contemptuous of the country that took them in. He chides Trump, as I did, for failing to distinguish between criminals and law-abiding Americans of Somali ancestry, but the president isn't wrong to sense something deeply amiss in a community of Americans so contemptuous of the country that took them in, and including their congressional representation. The problem Swaim points to is that for so many Muslims, particularly those not assimilated into the American tradition, there is no secular space. And that distinguishes it from Christianity, which render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God. There's a recognition that there's a secular space. which is why the allegations that Christians are trying to establish, or Catholics and or Christians are trying to establish, evangelicals trying to establish some sort of Christian or Judeo-Christian theocracy in America are so silly. No, there's a general, long-held understanding that there is the space for faith, and then there is a secular space. But in so many of these countries from which Muslims hail, there is no secular space. They're Islamic theocracies. Many of them of a totalitarian nature, as we all understand. And so, going back to what I said before, you have to distinguish. You can't do these things en masse without understanding the implications. Distinguish between one of these fraudsters and Ayaan Hirsi Ali. And that's why I go back to saying, what is the approach that has been taken, and what is the approach that's going to be taken in the short term, with an eye towards the place we want to be in the medium term? How are we going to conceive of this system of immigration that we have constructed? How are we going to improve it? And one of the things that you have to do is confront this uncomfortable question. It's an uncomfortable question for some people because they're so afraid of the name calling. To describe reality as Barton Swaim lays out here, and to ask questions that must be asked given the real world consequences that we're reviewing, is to risk being, ostracized, called insensitive, called racist or Islamophobe, and so on and so forth. It's not. It's none of that. Barton Swaim isn't. I'm not. People that are expressing similar concerns, even inartfully as the president, are not. But it's a delicate conversation, and a necessary one. Because the flip side is stories every single day like this one.
They say 37-year-old Jose Domingo Ayala Alas from Palmdale was a passenger in a car they were trying to pull over for tinted windows on Saturday. Investigators say he jumped out and hid in the trees near the 5 freeway on-ramp near Buena Vista Street. The man then shot police K9 Spike, who was going after him. Officers eventually shot and killed Ayala Alas after they say he opened fire on them. Police say he was a documented 18th Street gang member with prior arrests for possessing weapons, including firearms.
Yeah, this is a gangbanger from El Salvador in this country illegally who killed that police dog, the K9 officer, opened fire on police before he was taken out. Palmdale man, like Maryland man. Every single day. And as it pertains to the populations du jour, 28-year-old Somali national Bida Mahad Billy Muhammad, arrested in Minnesota on federal charges related to being a serial kidnapper and a rapist. He kidnapped and raped a 15-year-old girl in 2017 and an adult woman in 2025. In between, he raped at least 3 other women. This is all documented in a press release released by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota. So is that one? I mean, it's the same question we asked when J.B. Pritzker was doing his theatrical performances. So is that you come for one of us, you come for all of us. So if law enforcement comes for a bit of Mahad Billy Muhammad, the serial rapist, are they coming for all of you, Mayor Fry? And all of those who behave in the same hysterical fashion as these craven, despicable politicians. It is just detestable. And by the way, I mean, lest we forget, about the Afghan refugees. It doesn't even seem like we have a handle on the number. I thought it was, and it's been widely reported as it was in the neighborhood of 70,000. The Department of Homeland Security now is characterizing it as Biden letting 190,000 unvetted Afghan aliens into the country. Is it 70,000 or 190,000? That's not a rounding error. Yesterday, ICE arrested John Shah Safi, an Afghan national who provided support to ISIS. He also provided weapons to his father, who is the commander of a militia group in Afghanistan. Every single day. And so it's important to tell the stories to provide, something concrete about this and to get beyond just statistics. Put these things in human terms and human costs. But I still want the big picture. And we should still demand the big picture. What specifically is don't just we're revetting, we're going through. What specifically is the process? What's your best guesstimate on the numbers that we're talking? How long do you think this is going to take? How are you making decisions consistent with applicable law, including constitutional law, federal statutory and constitutional law? And where is the end game, do you think, in terms of how we should do immigration in this country in all the relevant categories, including asylum seekers, maybe particularly asylum seekers? By the way, on that score, the amount of fraud in the asylee program, just as we've talked before, the H-1B visa program, it does not offend me conceptually, but the management of the program, like any program, is always the crux of the issue. If you agree with the idea, but how is it being implemented? I certainly agree with the idea of America as a place of sanctuary for people being persecuted for their political or religious beliefs. However, how is the program actually being operated? Well, the last fiscal year, immigration judges issued 485,000 removal orders, 306,500 going to people who never bothered showing up for court. So they were, truly diligent asylum seekers. 75% didn't show up, a little less. 65%. Another 82,000, round numbers, asylum seekers had their claims denied after actually appearing. So these seem to be indications that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that the previous administration released into the country were not asylum seekers at all. They wanted in, they got in, and when it was time for their day in court, due process day in court, when it was time for their day in court, they vanished. And then ICE officers are the bad guys for coming upon people who chose to come here illegally and evade due process so they could stay in perpetuity. They're not the bad guys. ICE officers enforcing the law, they're the bad guys. That's the position of those tough guys, Jacob Fry and J.B. Pritzker and all the rest of the sanctuary city and state politicians. Oh, by the way, there is the Laken Riley Act that was signed into law. Remember Laken Riley? Talking about the human cost of open borders. The Laken Riley Act compels ICE officers, just as Tom Homan has said, to make the apprehensions that they're making. Ralph and Rantoul, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan. So I fail to fully comprehend, but this is kind of what I get out of it so far. The Democrats import millions of illegals and flood the zones so they can occupy seats to get census counts, increase representatives, generally make every illegal possible a voter, whether it's a legal vote through naturalization or an illegal vote through just no ID checks. So that's okay. That's their plan. That's the overall game plan. And, you know, akin to you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. If a few plebes here or there get raped, murdered, assaulted, otherwise manhandled by these thugs, that's okay. But if a prominent Democrat were to be the victim of one of these assaults or murders, then they would have media coverage like Jake Tapper calling the guy a white guy. We don't know if the guy's guilty or not yet, but it's absolutely preposterous to show his photograph on television, a visual medium, and then call him a white guy. I guess everything is okay if it advances their causes and they have media backing to twist the truth. Other than that, every law-abiding citizen is just an obstacle in the way of them obtaining and possessing power forever. What am I missing?
Yeah, that's a pretty good summation, Ralph. Thanks for the call. And again, you know, since ICE is the boogeyman that they're using here, the Laken Riley Act requires ICE to detain every single person with a final removal order, whether they're a quote-unquote a convicted, whether they're quote-unquote a criminal or not. If you have a final removal order, ICE is compelled to detain you. That's the law. And if you don't like it, Jacob, JB, and the rest of you, then change it. Stand up and say we should repeal the Laken Riley Act. Stand up and say people with final removal orders can stay as long as they want. Say it straight away. Those are your positions. Why don't you own them? Jay in New Lenox.
Hey, I didn't know if this is totally related to the topic, but Plaza 19, River Road, Illinois Tollway, the flagpole outside the Illinois Tollway is flying upside down. The American flag is flying upside down. These are the people that are working for the state of Illinois.
Thanks for the call, Jay. Interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to get some response as to why that is. What is exactly, why exactly is America in distress according to them? By the way, somebody also sent this in to, in case any of you are patrons of Tony's Fresh Market in the city. They posted a sign in the grocery store. Private property ICE CBP agents have no consent to park/enter this business unless they have a judicial warrant. Okay. It's private property. I respect private property. That's the way you want to play it, fine. People should know. Posted a sign, you want people to know, so I'm telling them. That's the way you can play it. All right. Coming up at 7:07, we will, I believe, turn our attention back to the J6 pipe bomber. We'll do that in the 7 o'clock hour. It is now 7 o'clock. AM 560 WIND Chicago.
A block
blockbuster deal in the entertainment industry. I'm Kathleen Maloney. Fox News, a streaming giant, makes the winning bid for a major TV and film company that's home to the Harry Potter and Superman franchises.
Netflix has agreed to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery's television and film studios, as well as its streaming division, in a $72 billion deal. This breaking news right now has Netflix winning the bidding war.
That's Maria Bartiromo of the Fox Business Network. The deal requires regulatory approval. The Virginia man accused of placing 2 pipe bombs outside the headquarters of the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters nearly 5 years ago faces a judge this afternoon. The motive for Brian Cole's alleged actions still unknown. President Trump is planning a trip to Pennsylvania to promote his economic agenda ahead of the midterm elections.
The senior administration official says that the intent of going on this trip next week is to emphasize that this administration has not let up on the economy. So the president will be traveling on Tuesday to Pennsylvania to send that message to Americans face to face that he is really fighting this battle for them, and he wants to illustrate the tactics he's been using to do so. The White House does not want Americans to forget either the kind of economy that they inherited, emphasizing the inflation that rose and purchasing power that sank under the prior administration. But Democrats are seeing the slim wallets of Americans as a midterm selling point. Axios reporting that, quote, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer told top lawmakers this week to adopt a laser focus on the affordability crisis, his chosen attack plan for the 2026 midterms.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court allows the challenged congressional redistricting plan in Texas to be used in next year's election. The map is favorable to Republicans and pushed by the president. America is listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 14 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. 10 people have been hospitalized following an early morning fire. According to reports, that fire broke out in an apartment complex in the 1500 block of North Karlov Avenue. That's in the Humboldt neighborhood. Officials say the fire broke out in the complex's basement area. The cause of that blaze is under investigation. An Illinois man has pleaded guilty to attempted kidnapping charges. According to reports, Devontae Shields admitted that he had planned to go to Florida to kidnap a child and then hold him for ransom. A text message from Shields showed that he had planned to use candy and toys to entice a boy to come with him. And actress Tara Reid is firing back after police found no evidence that she was drugged. Fox's Michelle Polino reports.
Police in the Chicago suburb of Rosemont, Illinois, are claiming they found no evidence to back Tara Reid's claims of being drugged during her November visit to a hotel bar. The Rosemont Public Safety Department said in a statement that video surveillance showed Reid at the hotel bar. They added, "We can confirm that a bartender covered her drink when she left the bar," which is standard practice for bartenders to do. Following the initial investigation results, Reid doubled down on her claims Wednesday, telling Page Six in a statement, "Bottom line is no one ends up in the hospital incapacitated for over 8 hours after a drink. Last thing I remember is having one drink and waking up in the hospital the next day without remembering anything." The police, however, are still waiting to receive the American Pie star's hospital record. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
This news report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you can save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
This December could be one that you'll always remember if you enter the Roland's Jewelers 12 Days of Christmas contest. You could win a $200 gift card from Roland's Jewelers in Libertyville. We're drawing 12 winners throughout the month of December, and you could be one of them. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/gift. That's 560theanswer.com/gift.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
This holiday season, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is delivering dozens of mortgage-free homes to deserving recipients during its annual Season of Hope. Tunnel to Towers welcomed U.S. Army Captain David Christopher into his mortgage-free smart home during a prior Season of Hope. David sustained catastrophic injuries in the line of duty. During this Season of Hope, let's make a difference in the lives of those who have sacrificed so much for our safety and freedom. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
So Pure Talk is offering unlimited talk, text, and data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $29.95 a month for life. Not your phone's life, your life. This top-tier plan is normally $65 a month, but if you switch today, you'll save over 50% every month for the rest of your life. You might say it's the deal of your lifetime. Just dial pound 250, say micro. Offer expires 12/7. Some restrictions apply. Details at puretalk.com.
I love giving jewelry as a gift. Roland's Jewelers is the perfect place for that magical holiday gift. Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. Roland's Jewelers is the absolute perfect place for the magical holiday gift for someone you love. Buying jewelry is about trust. Roland's is the jeweler I trust. I'm a customer, and I'm always amazed by their 5-star Google reviews, so many of them. But why not? They're the best. They're family-owned. Hey, getting engaged? Roland's has a large selection of mined and lab-grown diamonds at great prices. Choose from beautifully crafted engagement rings from designer Simon G. or Italian designer Roberto Coin, offering stunning diamond pendants and earrings. How about a Tag Heuer watch with cutting-edge technology? I love mine from Roland's. I continue to be impressed at how expertly trained their staff is. Visit Roland's Jewelers in downtown Libertyville or RolandsJewelers.com. That's Roland's, ROLLANDS, Roland's Jewelers, a family-owned jeweler you can trust, just like I do.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. 15 minutes both ways on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose, but jammed on the Kennedy inbound between Montrose Avenue and Irving Park Road with a stall taking out the left and center lanes. It's actually 24 minutes both ways from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange. Stop and go also on the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 30 minutes outbound is 17. The Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 31 minutes, outbound is 17 minutes. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Byrne Interchange, 19 minutes, outbound looks good at 12. This report is a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. That's 56david.com. Lower.com, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1124061. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be cold with a mix of sun and clouds, reaching a high of 28. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25. Tomorrow will be cloudy and cold with a high of 29. Sunday brings periods of morning snow accumulating 1 to 3 inches, along with low clouds and very cold temperatures, reaching a high of 27. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Thomas Crooks acted alone, and so did Brian Cole. Almost 5 years after those pipe bombs were placed outside the RNC and the DNC, an arrest was made yesterday. A Virginia man that Jake Tapper says is white As I said, it's not material, but he's just not. It's just really comical. They're impossible to parody. People like Jake Tapper, impossible to satirize. Brian Cole taken into custody. Dan Bongino on Hannity last night saying, while the investigation remains open, they didn't gather any new evidence. They just did a review of the existing evidence, and they tracked this guy down, and they got their guy.
Yeah, that's why I said to you, this investigation's just begun. We are pretty comfortable. We have our guy. I think as again, legal process starts to surface and information, facts start to come out, the public's going to be very comfortable with the investigation that was conducted under Director Patel and his leadership. He's been great on this. But I don't want to, listen, I was paid in the past, Sean, for my opinions. That's clear. And one day I'll be back in that space. But that's not what I'm paid for now. I'm paid to be your deputy director. And we base investigations on facts. And, it was interesting. I was looking out in the crowd today at the presser, and I saw a couple of media figures who you and I both know who promoted the other scandal, the collusion hoax. And I thought to myself, the difference between us and them is, we evolve. As information and new inputs come out, we can produce different outputs because that's what we believe in. We believe in facts and investigations guided by facts. There were people out there in that crowd, I'm sure still believe in this collusion fairy tale hoax. So we'll see. We're going to be guided by the facts as this thing goes forward.
Mm-hmm. For perspective on this, pleased to be joined again by James Gagliano, retired FBI supervisory special agent, doctoral candidate in Homeland Security at St. John's. He also served as mayor of the village of Cornwall-on-Hudson in New York. Jim, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan, always good to join you. I understand that it's almost as cold in Chicago than where I am here in New York. We were at 9 degrees this morning, my brother.
Yeah, well, you're a hardy people, as are we. Well, we'll get through it. So the Cash and Tango show yesterday. What do you make of that? What do you make of the arrest of Mr. Cole and what Cash and Dan had to say about that yesterday?
All right, so two separate things. So let me take these in order. On the investigation side, I caution people. The argument is, and I understand it from a layperson's perspective, the argument is it took 5 years. What took so long, and why just now? And yes, you had 2 unexploded devices, one at the RNC, their headquarters, and one at the DNC, which is confusing because if somebody's on an ideological bent, is this an anarchist, a nihilist that just wants to blow everything up, or is this somebody that was trying to target a specific group? They had a grievance. It's very confusing. But you had 2 unexploded devices, and typically in a post-blast investigation, Dan, the thing that makes it so tough is this. There is no way that you can collect up clean evidence because the evidence gets destroyed when the bomb goes off. So you had 2 unexploded devices. They were novice devices. I mean, looking at the components, how they were put together, novice devices. But investigations take time. And for all the people that are chirping and saying, they slow-walked this, I disagree with that. The men and women of the FBI didn't do that. You can blame Christopher Wray. You can blame, the Deputy Director, Paul Abate, but that didn't happen here. The fact that this was solved now, it was a cold case. You put fresh sets of eyes on it, and kudos to Dan and Cash, but enough with the victory tour. And that takes me to the political piece that you just kind of highlighted there. It was cringe for me yesterday to watch that press conference. The deputy director is historically a position whereby you are like the commandant of cadets at West Point. You're not the face. That's the 3-star general, the superintendent. You're the person that keeps order and discipline. It's the same in the FBI. Why is Dan Bongino out there giving these interviews, putting himself out there publicly, doing social media, I understand modernity. I understand the evolution of things. I understand communication changes. But, Dan, I thought it was an embarrassing look yesterday. And this is the guy that, remember, had pushed this narrative that the government was behind the pipe bombs being set and the government was covering it up. And now, as he pointed out, well, I get paid for something different. Before, I was paid for opinions. Now I'm paid not to put out rage clickbait. It was just disappointing, Dan. That's my feeling and my take on that.
Well, I agree with you about the chest beating. I talked about that earlier in the show, and talking like a politician, and also just sort of that sort of cheap law enforcement bravado. Like, these guys have watched High Noon one too many times. Just spare me the Gary Cooper routine, okay? I just want to understand what happened and what's happened over the last 4.5 years and how it culminated in the arrest yesterday. And I didn't get a lot on that. And so I need more on that. I need to understand, fresh set of eyes, cold cases. I get it conceptually. So tell us what happened. There's got to be people that were in the agency and on this case that are still in the agency. So how did they miss this guy for all this time? What was the kind of resources devoted initially and subsequently? What did the leadership of the FBI do or say as it pertains to this case? Talk about Ray and Abadi, as you just mentioned, over the course of their time. I want the detail because, and it surprises me that they're not giving it, because this agency's reputation has been so tarnished. And frankly, the reputations of Kash and Dan, where they were at the beginning of this administration as compared to where they are now, they have been diminished too, mainly because of Epstein. But I also think there are people that are not satisfied with his answers. I'm talking about Kash Patel's answers about the Thomas Crooks investigation. And now, as you're hearing, and I'm sure seeing like we are, you have a lot of people that are unsatisfied with the lack of detail they provided yesterday.
Yeah, and folks on the outside, and I consider myself one of those. I mean, yes, I'm more in the loop in the sense that I do still talk to people that work on the 7th floor at FBI headquarters. I still talk to people that have just retired recently and worked this case back in January of 2021 when it started. But here's the thing. Cases, everyone expects everything to be like a Law and Order episode. The first half hour, the crime happens, it gets investigated. The second half hour, let me just give you my perspective. And the second half hour, it's neatly wrapped up with a bow. It goes before a jury, and the guy gets convicted and goes to jail for life. It just doesn't work that way. And I'll give you another example of this on the other side. You remember during the global war on terror, and you remember after 9/11, and we were all hell-bent on finding Osama bin Laden. And everybody argued on the left that the reason we didn't catch Osama bin Laden until 2011 with a new president was because George W. Bush misdirected resources and was too focused on Iraq. And if he had just focused on finding and killing al-Qaeda and taking out Osama bin Laden, it would have happened much sooner. It doesn't work that way. Intelligence evolves. And as new information comes in, and you're going to argue and push back and say, Jimmy, what new information? This was looking for a needle in a haystack. This guy was a young, disaffected, from what everything the reports are indicating, African-American kid living at home with his mom in a well-to-do suburb, did not meet the definition or the typical profile of somebody that would do something like this. You got to follow the evidence. The FBI did that, but to say, well, we had these still photos from his grainy video and they should have been able to identify this guy, it just takes time. And I know 5 years seems like a long time, Dan, but I just don't believe the conspiracy stuff. And as I always say to you, Benjamin Franklin put it best. 3 people can keep a secret when 2 of them are dead. I think it just took this amount of time for the case to get solved, and hopefully they prosecute this guy and he goes to jail for a long time.
Yeah, so here's the thing about that. This is not how it works, and this isn't a Law and Order episode, right? Don't tell me how it doesn't work. I mean, I'm not being pointed with you. I'm just trying to distinguish from what you said. Okay, I don't know how it works. I've never been inside the FBI. But there's some common sense questions that I have and people have that should be addressed. Tell me how it does work. Don't tell me you don't know how it works and it's not like a Law & Order episode. Tell me how it does work. Tell me how this came to pass. Because what you're doing now, you just did. What I believe is it just took this long. But you don't know either. And that's the problem. Okay. We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. And so give us the, general trajectory of the last 4 years in terms of how this investigation started and how it proceeded and where we winnowed and how we winnowed our way to this point. Give us the how it does work. And, without revealing anything that would compromise the case against this guy and so on and so forth. And when Bongino says this is just the beginning of the investigation, well, what does that mean? You said you got your guy. So give me more color on that, too. You don't just get to throw out these phrases and wave the flag and say, if you haven't been in law enforcement, you don't know how it works, and you're not allowed to ask questions, and we're not going to tell you what we did. You're just supposed to congratulate us for getting the job done. That's unsatisfying to me.
Fair. All right. So you've got Chicago Cubs fans and White Sox fans are listening to your show. Let's play inside baseball. I'll give it to you on how this happens. So the bombs were apparently planted on January 5th. Okay, right. Once they're discovered, where does the investigation go? Where does it start, and how does it get to the point where we are right now, where we have an indictment and an arrest? Okay. What you do is it starts with concentric circles. You start as close as possible to where the event or the incident or the crime took place, and you work your way out. Dan, there's nothing that occurs today, and especially like a city like Washington, D.C., it's like Chicago, New York City, and L.A., where the entire area is blanketed by CCTV, whether it's, local businesses or whether it's law enforcement, the United States government. There is plenty of videotape of any movements that would have happened in and around that area. So you come up with this mysterious image of this person moving along the spots that would have possibly placed this device. That takes time. From there, you've got to interview people. You've got to do regular gumshoe detective work. You've got to knock on doors. You've got to crowdsource. You've got to use the media. You've got to put things out. You've got to put out a tip line. You have to have people available to take those calls, and then you have to have agents and detectives to triage those things. Dan Bongino did say one thing that was very telling yesterday, that this case was solved not on a tip, but on forensic evidence. Well, you look at it and you say, well, Jimmy, they just said that this guy Cole, his cell phone pinged in all those locations around the same time, and license plate readers picked up his vehicle in that general vicinity around that same time. This should have been open and shut. But how would you get to that? How would you get the information that you need to subpoena this person's cell information? How would you know that that was the vehicle you needed to look at when thousands upon thousands of vehicles had been in and out of matriculating around that area during the day? Dan, I'm not whining. This is the job and the profession life these folks choose.
No, I get it.
Time.
I get it, but my point is to say, okay, so that's the sort of the process that you go through to try and solve a case like this, and the point you raised about, like, people running around saying, oh, they had his cell phone pings and his license plate reader, but how do you, but they've got cell phone pings and license plate readers on a lot of people in the region at that same time, and so on and so forth. So how do you drill down to him? That's completely fair, and I understand that takes time, and you've got to use all those other investigative approaches that you just mentioned. My point is to say, so what did the FBI do for the last 3 years? Where was the case when you picked it up, and how did you go from where it was to arresting Brian Cole? That's the only. It's just like, give us the full arc of the investigation with some detail, and everything is sort of what you don't understand, and it's sort of, here's how we do things. I want specifics. I want to know what Chris Wray and his FBI did or didn't do, and I want to know what you understood and what you learned when you got in those positions and what you've done over the last 10 months to get to yesterday, and then what you think about this investigation going forward when Bongino makes a statement like this is just the beginning of it. Fill in those blanks.
Yes, and that will happen at trial. And again, I'm not running cover for the FBI. I've come on your show a million times and been harshly critical of things where the FBI has made mistakes. But in this instance, this is a case right now that is built on a ton of evidence, circumstantial evidence. What does that mean? It means just because somebody went into a Home Depot and bought a plastic cap that's put on the end of a fuse, that does not make them a terrorist or a pipe bomb builder.
Yeah.
But it's one piece. You add that to the piece where the cell phone towers pinged, where the license plate readers picked up his vehicle. The fact that from the still images taken off of the video, you can determine this individual was between the size of 5'6" and 5'8". He turned out to be 5'7". Dan, all those things are going toward this, but without a confession or without a clear face, video of this guy and then him going to his house and you track him there, these are the things that are built into this case. I'm not excusing the fact that it took this long. I'm just suggesting it takes a lot of time for this, and we'll learn a lot more at trial if this ends up going to trial. And I do not blame the FBI for coming out prematurely and saying, well, here's what we have right now. We don't know who the guy is, but we have this, and we're going to continue working. You do that when you need to crowdsource. You do that when it's in the public's best interest, meaning there might be a current threat out there. Otherwise, we do not speak about ongoing investigations.
Yeah, I understand it. And I mean, possibly, I could see from the prosecutor's point of view is to say, don't go back and get too into the weeds here on terms of who did or didn't do what, because if you start saying publicly that the FBI under Christopher Wray did this versus we did that, then maybe you're going to disclose something that could be used by the defense to say somehow the investigation was corrupted, or there are questions about the propriety of actions taken by particular FBI agents in the previous regime or in the current regime. In other words, if you start talking about what everybody did or didn't do, then you raise possible, you potentially imperil the case with what defense attorneys could use to create reasonable doubt.
You said it better than I could. That is exactly the reason. So please understand, and I know you do, I'm not insulting your intelligence. Please understand that these are the kind of things that at the highest levels of the FBI and the Department of Justice, because the FBI director answers underneath the Attorney General, have to be weighed. When is it in the best interest of the public to release information? And when is something that release could potentially imperil a prosecution? I was involved in those decisions, not on this case, but on many other cases. And trust me when I tell you this, Dan. I know you don't like me to say just trust me, but you agonize over it. You don't want to hold on to something that could potentially clear the case or find the bad guy or protect the public, but you have to weigh it against what am I going to do now to potentially imperil the future prosecution, or am I releasing something that helps the bad guys? And that's where I think they are. Look, do I think that Patel and Bongino are the best mouthpieces for this right now? No. I believe the FBI needs reform. I've been agnostic on them for the last year, trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But there have been a collection of errors of recent where I feel in certain senses they are in over their head. I said it.
James Gagliano, retired FBI supervisory special agent, doctoral candidate in Homeland Security at St. John's. Also, he served as mayor of the village of Cornwall-on-Hudson in New York. Jim, thank you as always. Enjoyed it. Appreciate your time.
Dan, thanks for having me.
And James Gagliano joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
If a Lenovo computer for your business is on your holiday list, don't shop around. Just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com. It's your last chance to get exclusive deals on the PCs you want for your business, like the ThinkPad X9 14 Aura Edition and Yoga 7i 2-in-1. So avoid all that shopping chaos and price comparing, and just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com, where PCs are up to 35% off. That's Lenovo.com.
Lenovo. Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, he wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Text from 630. I completely disagree with your narrative about chest beating. It's not a narrative. That's what it was. I completely disagree with your narrative about chest beating. These people need to know that the people in charge of the law will enforce the law, and loudly. You know how people know the law will be enforced? They see it enforced. You know how people have faith in people in charge of law enforcement agencies? They see them act competently. They provide explanations. They provide details as they can, when they can, proactively. I don't need to hear about, we'll go to the ends of the earth, you not coming to our town, and blah, blah. Just, like, as I said, spare me the Gary Cooper routine. You sound like a political hack. Okay. Turning our attention to higher pursuits, our annual Food for the Poor campaign is well underway, as anybody who listens to this show knows. We're partnering again this year with Food for the Poor, which is a faith-based nonprofit relief organization that works directly with partners on the ground in poor countries in Latin America and the Caribbean to operate feeding centers. And their partners on the ground are mainly religious organizations, local churches. This is how they are able to do what few other NGOs are able to do, which is to operate as efficiently as they do. 90 cents plus of every dollar raised goes directly to provisions for the clients, and do so regardless of the political circumstances in places like Haiti or Honduras or Jamaica. Food for the Poor has been doing this kind of work for more than 4 decades, so they also have that track record. 17 countries around the world. They've fed millions of people and provided more than $15 billion with a B dollars in aid. We're trying to do our part again this year. Your gift of $150 can provide food and water for 2 children for an entire year. For $300, that's food and water for 4 children for an entire year. To make a gift of any amount, just call 844-862-4673, or you can visit us online at 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. We're also doing our business benefactor program again this year. We've had a number of enlightened businesses sign up. Why don't you join them? To do that, make a tax-deductible gift of $2,500 to Food for the Poor. And we here at AM 560 will give you 41-minute commercials to air on this station, Monday through Friday, prime broadcast hours, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's a great marketing deal, the best in Chicago radio, and at the same time, you'll be providing life-saving food for more than 30 children in Latin America and the Caribbean. To become a business benefactor, you just call our general manager. His name is John Gallagher. 847-472-8950 is his number. Again, to join the business benefactor program, call John at 847-472-8950.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:37, we'll talk to retired Marine Colonel Jonathan Myers, get some fresh color on Operation Allies Welcome. He was an individual that was responsible for getting some of our allies in Afghanistan out of Afghanistan and providing asylum here in America. We'll get perspective from Marine Colonel Jonathan Myers, 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is just 13 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Governor J.B. Pritzker has signed legislation which will protect vaccine access here in Illinois. The governor says the bill will, quote, safeguard vaccine access and maintain science-based recommendations. Meanwhile, officials with the Department of Health say measles vaccinations are up 3% in Chicago public schools. The department says they launched several initiatives this past year to bolster vaccine rates after seeing a rise in measles cases throughout the state. There have been 14 confirmed measles cases in Illinois this past year. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and the city council are still at an impasse regarding passing the city's budget. City officials have until December 31st to pass that budget. Officials with the mayor's office have rejected an alternative budget proposal which was received by some of the alders, which included the removal of the mayor's proposed corporate head tax and replaced it with other increases, including a 90% increase in garbage collection fees, something the mayor opposes. This report is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Think full mouth dental implants are too expensive? Think again, not at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. With medical insurance, you could save thousands and receive your finally affordable dream smile. Check if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Mike Gallagher questions the other side of the aisle.
We got Democrats now lining up in support of Luigi Mangione. We got Democrats who are supporting narco-terrorists. We got Democrats who support open borders and are against the enforcement of our immigration laws. I want to get along with Democrats. I don't know how I get along with people who support cold-blooded killers and narco-terrorists.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're one of the millions of Americans behind on your taxes, if you're afraid to open your mail because IRS collection letters could be coming, listen carefully. The IRS is cracking down, taking paychecks, freezing bank accounts, revoking passports. That's a fact. But here's what most people don't know. There are official tax relief programs designed to help struggling taxpayers. Programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief. Optima's award-winning team will fight to protect your paycheck, your passport, and your property. Their tax attorneys and licensed tax professionals will work tirelessly to get you the best deal possible with the IRS. Every day, penalties and interest keep piling up, so don't wait. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
At Access One, we don't take chances with your technology, and we put $10,000 behind our assessment to prove it. Our mission is to strengthen your IT security and resilience, backed by over 30 years of experience, serving organizations across the Midwest. And here's the deal. If we can't find even one measurable way to improve your technology or security posture based on NIST or CIS security frameworks, we'll write you a check for $10,000. This free confidential risk assessment is available for businesses with 25 to 500 employees and is designed to validate your IT performance against recognized security regulations. No gimmicks, just a confident promise from a partner who knows technology. Ready to take the challenge? Visit AccessOneInc.com/challenge or call 800-654-1555. Certain conditions apply. See details online.
Fearless conversations and sharp analysis of the stories that matter. It's the Aaron Mullins Show, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
I do find it a little bit off-putting when someone has a history of calling others out for being complicit via their silence to then occupy that space themselves. The hypocrisy is the issue I have.
The Aaron Mullins Show on the Salem Podcast Network. Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Check off the wish list with instant savings and free battery offers on select Steel tools. Shop online or in store.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. We're jammed right now in 8094 because of a crash taking out the left lane at Indianapolis Boulevard. Also pretty slow on the northbound side of Lakeshore Drive as you head into Hollywood Avenue. Just 15 minutes though, both ways on the Eden from Lake Hook to Montrose, and the Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange 29 minutes. Outbound is 28. The Eisenhower is 28 minutes inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office. Outbound is 17. Inbound Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 27 minutes. Outbound 17. And the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Byrne Interchange is 22 minutes. Outbound is 12. This report is sponsored by Supershore. Do you own a small business? You need to hear this. A seismic shift is coming. It's time to get super sure. Not kind of sure, not pretty sure, not a little sure, but super sure. The seismic shift is coming. Super sure, coming soon. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be cold with a mix of sun and clouds, reaching a high of 28. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25. Tomorrow will be cloudy and cold with a high of 29. On Sunday, there will be periods of snow in the morning, accumulating 1 to 3 inches, while the rest of the day will bring low clouds and very cold temperatures, reaching a high of 27. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment brought to you by Unleash Your Wealth with Raj Shah and Rick Borick this Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. Learn more at scwealthadvisors.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Just quickly, a text from 219. I'm a great conservative. You know how you know somebody's a great conservative? They tell you. I'm a great conservative, and you are a whining little idiot. Patel, Bongino, and the gang are great. I will no longer be listening to you. Get off your fake high horse. Okay. I'll miss you terribly, 219. You go throw your rattle around to somebody else who I guess you expect to just read the press releases from the administration. That's not what I do. Apparently you didn't pick up on that, even though you're a great conservative and obviously very perceptive over the time that you listen to this program. Yeah, I ask questions. I'm not here to polish anybody's apple. Sorry. Okay. Speaking of which, the situation with Operation Allies Welcome and what we understand to be true, I mentioned it before. I'm not even sure we have a handle on the proper numbers we're talking about. Because Homeland Security posted on X yesterday on the occasion of the arrest of John Shah Safi, an unvetted Afghan national who provided support to ISIS and provided weapons to his father, who's a commander of a militia group in Afghanistan. This is what Homeland Security reported. They say Biden let into our country nearly 190,000 unvetted Afghan aliens, only determining who they were and their intentions when they were already on American soil. President Trump has been working every day since Jan 20 to clean up his unmitigated national security crisis. Well, here's another area where I'd like a little bit more detail about what was and wasn't done in the previous administration, the changes that have been made, and how those are going, particularly, obviously, in the wake of those 2 National Guardsmen that were shot and 1 murdered last week. And for those who want America to continue to be a sanctuary for people fleeing political and religious persecution, and for people who stood with American soldiers in battle, as certainly some Afghans did, as we know, and promises were made. You want those promises kept. And the only way that we can balance those interests is to understand exactly how we're going to do that in a way that is sensible and provides also for the safety of Americans in the homeland. So for perspective on this, what is and isn't being done, what could and should be done, pleased to be joined by retired Marine Colonel Jonathan Myers. He served with distinction in the Marine Corps for 28 years as an intel officer. He also released a tactical, operational, and strategic intel book that provides insight into Marine Corps operations and procedures called American to the Core, Iraq, Bosnia, Benghazi, Snowden, a Marine Corps intelligence officer's incredible journey. American to the Core is the book. Marine Colonel Jonathan Myers is our guest. Colonel Myers, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So, give us your perspective on Operation Allies Welcome as it was conceived and then as it has been implemented over the last 4 years.
Sure. So a little background, if people remember, there was an effort that immediately started when everything collapsed with a number of veteran groups trying to get people out. And I led one of those groups, and we were focused on American citizens trapped in Afghanistan, as well as the spouses and children of American citizens. And in some cases, verified allies, at the personal request of soldiers or Marines who served in Afghanistan would contact us and say, please help my interpreter and his family. So we would work trying to get those people out. But the real source of frustration was that the Biden administration at the time, for whatever reason, was refusing to acknowledge that there was a crisis. So they were pretending that we didn't exist and that the Americans we had in hiding didn't exist. And the most we could do for interpreters and Afghan citizens who were verified to us by allies was get them to a third-party country. Mm-hmm. Because they simply were not, the Biden administration simply was not cooperating with us. They were basically blocking us behind the scenes, and in some cases publicly refuting us, such as when Jen Psaki went on television and said there was no Americans trapped, when I personally had 138 Americans in hiding at the time. So then the real source of the frustration, as you mentioned earlier, was at the same time the Biden administration was opening the floodgates of the airfield and the airplanes to unvetted Afghans, 125,000 plus, and bringing them to the United States without any sort of processing of their backgrounds, while at the same time refusing space for our American citizens or our verified allies. And then over the last 4 years, they had set up a program in Washington, D.C., where they were continuing to bring more people. And we saw the results of that in Washington, D.C. a few weeks ago when an unvetted Afghan shot those two poor National Guard soldiers.
So, do you have a handle on the size of the population that is verified Afghan allies like you're describing? How big is that cohort compared to the what you're sort of describing as the indiscriminate invitation to some 125,000 Afghans?
I don't have exact numbers, but I have to tell you, based on my experience and the experience of some of the other veteran groups I have worked with and was in close contact with, such as the Pineapple Express that everybody heard about, it was very difficult to get these verified allies, translators, such as the translator for Dakota Meyer, the Medal of Honor winner. We worked on that case. It was very difficult to even get them to a third-party nation, such as Qatar. And the only information I had on the numbers was what I heard in the media, more than 125,000. And then I was in touch with some of the people involved with bringing people in later, just because I happened to know them, and I would ask what is going on with that. And the numbers were, greater than 150 to 190,000 people.
Now, this was somebody that, just using this as a case study, so this was somebody that, I'm talking about the D.C. shooter who killed the National Guardsman and wounded the other one. He was a part, allegedly, of a Zero unit, and has been in this country for 5 years. He's got 5 kids. He's got a wife. And Kristi Noem last week said he had been radicalized here, and she sort of insinuated that it's part of, it happened in this community of Afghans who've been resettled in the Washington state suburb in which this guy resided. So the question I think a lot of people have is, even if they were someone who fought with American soldiers in Afghanistan, when you do this en masse, and somebody vetted, and let's say that there's somebody out there, CIA operative or a fellow soldier who vouches for this guys, but then they come over here and they're in a community that's as large as the one you just described, and there's a radical imam or there's some other ne'er-do-wells who don't like America and don't intend to do any good in America. And then this guy gets radicalized. So it sort of goes to this fundamental question: do we really have the ability to vet people unless there is, sort of a years-long intimate relationship with people that we do trust?
Oh, yes. It would have to be very long and a thorough background investigation process. I mean, the Washington state suburbs have been known to radicalize red-blooded Americans, right? I mean,
yeah.
So,
good point.
It would require a lot more than just personal vouching for somebody. Even if somebody's personally vouched for by a veteran who served with them, it's still going to take more than that. It's going to take a more extensive background search and investigation to ensure that that person doesn't end up like this guy who went to Washington, D.C.
So we obviously know what happened in the Biden administration. You just described it, which was indiscriminate and unbelievably dangerous, and it's played out. It's not just with the shootings in D.C., but the terrorist plot in Oklahoma and other instances of Afghan asylees committing terrible crimes. So what is your handle on what is being done now that is different? And is there anything that should be done in addition to what is being done now, other than this re-review that is allegedly going on of this population?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was not happy with how the Biden administration handled it. We had the people in hiding that we wanted to get out, Americans as well as vetted allies, to get to third-party nations. And like I said, they completely ignored our existence while at the same time opening the floodgates, I can only guess why, to save face, to make it look like they were doing something, but at the same time not acknowledging that, we had our people. And I think that all those people that they brought over need to be prioritized for, possible sending them back home if they can't pass the vetting, and if they were just jumped on that plane, on the planes with 700 people crowded on. Obviously, those people can't stay here without a very thorough background vetting.
And I mean, do you have any perspective on what a proper vetting entails? I mean, it's it seems to me like this has to be an eye towards confidence that this person wants to assimilate, will assimilate, wants to call America his or her home and treat America as his or her home. Not, I'm here, but my loyalties really lie with my tribe or with my home country. No, I want to be an American, and I'm going to be an American, and I'm going to be a great American. How does somebody convince you when, the paperwork, identity issues, all the stuff that, is being discussed at present?
Well, it is so hard to vet the background of somebody from Afghanistan. It's completely collapsed society with no law and order. So it's very you can't go to that country, to the legal authorities, and do a thorough background check. So you're really taking a chance. And I think that the old days of taking some classes, waiting some period of time, and swearing an oath has proven to not be enough, as we've seen in Minneapolis and other places where that's just an exercise to get that piece of paper so that you can then take advantage of your new home. So, it's hard to say. And with the way things are going in Afghanistan, I don't know that it'll ever be possible to thoroughly background check all those people they brought over.
So, I mean, do you think that President Trump is taking the right approach by putting this pause on some I started at 19 countries. I think you're going to be in the low 30s here at some point. But in countries like Afghanistan, where we can't have confidence, where the vetting is not, particularly feasible, and as well as removing TPS status for Somalians and so on and so forth? Is he taking the right approach, trying to tighten this all up?
Absolutely, he's taking the right approach. Those 19 countries, I've honestly worked and been to most of them, and most Americans just truly don't understand the chaos and disorder and lawlessness that exists in those places. And even if the State Department and the FBI got involved to try to do a very thorough background check of an individual they're bringing from some of those places, it's literally just impossible because there are no authorities to talk to. There is no structure to work within to check the background of these people. So a lot of times you really just don't know who you're getting.
And so, I mean, when he talks about, previously during the campaign and to present, when he talks about mass deportations, to some extent, we're really in a pickle because, we want to distinguish between, as I keep using this example, the fraudsters from Somalia in Minneapolis and Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who is also from Somalia and is a great American. We want to distinguish, but when you do this mass importation of people the way the previous administration did, the only way to feasibly do it in a reasonable period of time is to do en masse out what they did en masse in, isn't it?
Well, you'd think so. It's interesting that a lot of these en masse migration situations that we end up in, such as with the Somalis in Minneapolis and the Afghans in Washington State and other places, as are a result of our operations or activities or engagements in foreign countries, and then everything goes south, and our sense of American, purpose and somewhat guilt makes us bring over hundreds of thousands of people without doing thorough background vetting. So, we need to stop doing that, basically, and we need to correct our mistakes of the past, which is exactly what I feel like President Trump is doing right now.
He is Jonathan Myers. He's a retired Marine colonel, served with distinction in the Marine Corps for 28 years as an intel officer. He also released a tactical, operational, and strategic intel book that provides insight into Marine Corps operations and procedures. It's called American to the Core, Iraq, Bosnia, Benghazi, Snowden, a Marine Corps intelligence officer's incredible journey. American to the Core is the book. Colonel Jonathan Myers is the author. Colonel Myers, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
And he joined us in the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is the time of the year most of us are checking off our holiday gift list. Identity thieves have lists too, and your personal information might be on that list. Protect your identity with LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every single second and alerts you to the threats you could miss yourself. If your identity is stolen, your own U.S.-based restoration specialist is going to work to fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Make this season about joy, not identity theft, with LifeLock. Save up to 40% off your first year at LifeLock.com with the promo code BECK. Terms apply.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You need someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now you can meet them fast on ZipRecruiter.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
When someone you love is living with memory loss, finding the right care isn't just important, it's everything. At Terra Vista of Oak Brook Terrace, memory care isn't an add-on, it's all we do.
When Mom moved into Terra Vista, everything changed. She's safe, engaged, and surrounded by people who truly understand dementia. And I finally get to just be her daughter again.
Terra Vista was built specifically for caring for those with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia, with secure indoor and outdoor spaces, innovative therapies, and a community that feels like home. Residents stay active, connected, and respected every single day.
And the best part? Mom can live with dignity, and I have peace of mind.
If memory care is in your future, choose the community designed for it. Choose Terra Vista of Oak Brook Terrace. Schedule a tour today at terravista.org. Again, that's terravista.org, and tell them AM 560 sent you. Terra Vista, where memory care lives.
AM 560, The Answer.
Text from 815, no more immigration, legal or otherwise, until we can figure out who the hell is here. Outflow, not inflow. Yeah, well, that's the trick bag that the Open Borders crowd put us in, isn't it? Coming up at 8:08, we'll turn our attention to matters economic, including President Trump's announcement, along with Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, about compact trucks that'll be available to Americans. 8:08 with Jim Perry. It's now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
A suspected bomber will get his day in court. I'm Kathleen Maloney, Fox News. Brian Cole of Virginia will go before a federal judge today. He's accused of putting pipe bombs at the headquarters of the RNC and DNC nearly 5 years ago.
He is now facing 2 federal charges. There are 2 pieces of evidence that investigators say were crucial in landing this breakthrough: Cole's credit card history and cell phone records. Throughout 2019 and 2020, they say he bought several materials that match the components of the bombs. We're talking galvanized pipes and end caps, battery connectors, kitchen timers, and electrical wire. They also say cell phone pings indicates Cole's phone was in the area of the RNC and DNC the night of the crime.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. Homeland Security arrests dozens of illegal immigrants in New Orleans in the last 24 hours.
Over 30 arrests have been made so far in an operation that set a goal of nabbing some 5,000 people. Now, on Wednesday, as Operation Catahoula Crunch was just getting started, federal agents nabbed Vinh Van To from Vietnam. DHS says he's in the U.S. illegally and was convicted of multiple crimes, including kidnapping, homicide, and assault with a deadly weapon. He was sentenced to 40 years, but released on parole. DHS says a process is now underway to remove him from the country. With others suspected and convicted, crimes range from sexual assault to child abuse and vehicle theft. They're all being processed to be deported.
Fox's Mike Tobin. The U.S. Southern Command says it has conducted another strike against a small boat in the Eastern Pacific. It's the 22nd strike the U.S. military has carried out against boats the Trump administration claims were trafficking drugs. 4 people were killed in Thursday's strike, bringing to 87 the total number of people killed since those boat strikes began. On Wall Street, stock futures are trending mostly lower. Gold is up. America is listening to Fox News.
WIND, Chicago.
Good morning. It is only 15 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Chicago area firefighters fought frigid temperatures as they worked to put out a fire in a West Humboldt area apartment complex early this morning. According to reports, 10 people were transported to area hospitals for treatment following that blaze that took place in the 1500 block of North Karlov Avenue. Officials say the fire broke out in the complex's basement area. The cause of the blaze is under investigation. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and the City Council are still at an impasse regarding the passing of the city's budget. City officials have until the end of the year to pass that budget. Officials with the mayor's office have rejected an alternative budget proposal, which was presented by some of the alders, which included removal of the mayor's proposed corporate head tax and replaced it with other fees, including a 90% increase in garbage collection fees, which would be passed on to residents. That's something Mayor Brandon Johnson says he opposes. The mother of a 6-year-old boy is looking for answers after her son was dropped off from school an hour early, leaving him alone outside in the frigid temperatures for almost an hour. CBS News Chicago reports that the child told school officials he didn't want to go to his normal after-school program, so staffers put him on the bus to take him home without notifying anyone. The bus driver then dropped the child off but didn't wait to see if there was an adult there to meet him and drove away. The mother said that she was told standard procedure was for bus drivers to bring a child back to a school if a guardian was not present to meet them. According to the latest Illinois Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act notices, 1,138 employees across our state will be losing their jobs in the coming weeks. 714 of those job losses will take place in downtown Chicago, which include 487 layoffs at Norvax LLC. News is a service of Access One IT Business Services. Don't let IT issues at work ruin your holidays. Hand off your help desk to the IT experts at Access One. Visit AccessOneInc.com. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes, but time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Netflix beating out Paramount and Comcast to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. The streaming giant agreeing to buy the Hollywood studio known for blockbusters like the Superman films and the Harry Potter movies in a deal worth $82.7 billion. In their official announcement, Netflix saying it expects to maintain Warner Brothers' current operations and build on its strengths, including theatrical releases for films. And the European Union hitting Elon Musk's X with a $140 million fine. The bloc saying the social media platform's blue checkmark system exposes users to scams. The commission saying this violated regulations under the DSA prohibiting social media platforms from falsely claiming users have been verified. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Lillian Wu, invested in you.
Would you like to have your mortgage or rent paid for all of 2026? That sounds like a Christmas miracle, doesn't it?
This is what Christmas is all about.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what AM 560 The Answer wants to do for you. Go to 560theanswer.com/miracle to enter our Christmas Mortgage Miracle Contest. Enter once per day, every day, between now and December 20th. You can have your rent or mortgage paid for all of next year.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Nice. Go to 560theanswer.com/miracle.
The biggest time of the year for stores is during the Christmas season. And if you deal in collector coins, the main source for inventory is from people like you. We want to have our showcases fully stocked before Christmas. Last Christmas, gold was the highest ever recorded in its 5,000-year run. We don't always know if precious metals will go up or down. We're saying that if you don't appreciate that collection Grandpa left, you may want to at least find out what you can get for it. Fox Valley Coins is the trusted place where people come to buy and sell their precious metals, rare coins, and paper money. We're especially interested in purchasing now through the first week of December. And we'll still be buying after we get back from the Christmas break, but we need to purchase now. Fox Valley Coins is located one light north of I-88 on Route 59 on the Naperville-Warrenville border. We'll be closed Christmas Eve through Monday, January 4th, celebrating Jesus' birth with family and for year-end inventory. Merry Christmas from Fox Valley Coins. Family-owned integrity since 1981. FoxValleyCoins.com.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-515-1865. 800-515-1865. 800-515-1865.
This holiday season, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is delivering dozens of mortgage-free homes to deserving recipients during its annual Season of Hope. Tunnel to Towers welcomed U.S. Army Captain David Christopher into his mortgage-free smart home during a prior Season of Hope. David sustained catastrophic injuries in the line of duty. During this Season of Hope, let's make a difference in the lives of those who have sacrificed so much for our safety and freedom. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
So Pure Talk is offering unlimited talk, text, and data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $29.95 a month for life. Not your phone's life, your life. This top-tier plan is normally $65 a month, but if you switch today, you'll save over 50% every month for the rest of your life. You might say it's the deal of your lifetime. Just dial pound 250, say micro. Offer expires 12/7. Some restrictions apply. Details at puretalk.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Getting reports of a car fire. It's on the Tri-State southbound just after Ridgeland Avenue, so watch out for lots of fire department activity. And then if you're traveling on 8094 eastbound, there's a jackknife tractor trailer right at Indianapolis Boulevard exit 2, but the delays, they stretch as far back as the Illinois-Indiana state line. We're also pretty slow northbound on Lakeshore Drive as you head into Hollywood Avenue, and traveling on the Dan Ryan. Inbound from 95th to the Byrne interchange is 31 minutes. Outbound is 12, but the express lanes are completely jammed as you head into the Stevenson. Now the inbound Stevenson from the Tri-State to Lakeshore is 35 minutes. Outbound is 18. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Byrne interchange, very slow, 38 minutes. Outbound is 30. And the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office is 32 minutes. Outbound is 20. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be cold with a mix of sun and clouds, reaching a high of 28. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 25. Tomorrow will be cloudy and cold with a high of 29. Sunday brings periods of morning snow accumulating 1 to 3 inches, along with low clouds and very cold temperatures, reaching a high of 27. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. President Trump making a move in the direction of deregulation and affordability, addressing the affordability crisis. Wednesday, he ended the Biden electric vehicle mandate. And while it was claimed he's rolling back fuel economy standards, what he's doing is eliminating gratuitous mandates that artificially raise car prices and create market distortions. And he talked about these compact trucks that will be available for Americans, production and sale here, at a Oval Office presser that included an exchange or a contribution, I guess I should say, from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy on the topic. Take a listen.
If you go to Japan, where I just left, and if you go to South Korea and Malaysia and other countries, they have a very small car, sort of like the Beetle used to be with the Volkswagen. They're very small, they're really cute. And I said, how would that do in this country? And everyone seems to think good, but you're not allowed to build them. And I've authorized the secretary to immediately approve the production of those cars. So you'll be able to buy, they really are, they're actually, some of them are really beautiful, actually. If you take a look, Honda, some of the Japanese companies do a beautiful job. But we're not allowed to make them in this country. And I think you're going to do very well with those cars. So we're going to approve those cars. Would you like to say something about that?
Well, no, just that he never stops working, so even when he's on Asian time, he's calling me at midnight in the States. But he gave me the directive to clear the regulations on this, which we have. And so if Toyota or any other company wants to make smaller, more affordable cars, fuel efficient, we have cleared the deck so they can make them in America and sell them in America.
They're really nice and less expensive. And it really gives people a chance to have a car, have a brand new car as opposed to a car that maybe isn't so great.
Expanding consumer choice, reducing regulation to reduce price. I like that. For more on matters economic, including that one, James Perry joins us, founder, CIO, Perry International Capital Partners. Jim, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you.
Well, I mean, one of the things that Trump 1.0 did that was so helpful to the American economy, tax relief, regulatory relief. Tax relief takes effect in 26, and this is not his first foray into regulatory relief, but it's an important one, particularly with our Pacific Rim partners.
Yes. Was that a question, Dan?
Well, yes. So, yes, a statement, a question in the form of a statement, yes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's funny, the stock market and the bond market, all financial markets really create their own narrative, right? And a lot of that narrative for the last year or two has been, set forth very negatively, and the bond market and the stock market keep refuting that kind of information. So I think the broad stroke on all of this stuff is that the administration had a 5-point plan that's been very clearly articulated over the last year or 18 months, and that is lower taxes, obviously, deregulation, lower budget deficit, lower trade deficit, and enhanced national security. And all 5 of those things are happening. And because they're happening, the U.S. economy is doing very, very well, and the markets reflect that. So I think there's a lot of moving parts to that thing, but I think deregulation is a good place to start. I think that's probably the most important of the 5 issues. So I agree with you.
But the economy is doing very, very well. But ADP reporting that 32,000 private sector jobs were lost in November. We'll see what it actually turns out to be, if you can believe anybody's numbers on this. But directionally, a loss of 32,000 jobs. And it's a little curious. Small businesses cut 120,000 jobs. This, again, according to ADP survey. At the same time, I'm reading in the Journal, NFIB, National Federation of Independent Business Chief Economist William Dunkelberg, talking about 33% of small business owners, fewer than 50 employees, reported job openings they couldn't fill in the period, which was up a point from October. So
right.
I'm hearing like we have jobs we can't fill, and then it's in the small business environment, and yet I'm hearing they're shedding jobs at the same time. What gives?
Right. Well, you and I tend to speak on the first Friday of the month, which is non-farm payroll date, and we're not getting that today, and we didn't get it last week, and we haven't gotten it for a while. And again, you and I have talked about this, how this data really isn't very good. So we do have to look at all these other surveys and kind of figure out where things are going and kind of triangulate a little bit. And the small business group is much different than corporate America, and I think what is important to realize, again, broad stroke, flying at sort of 37,000 feet, there's actually a shortage of jobs in this country by 3 to 5 million people, right? So this is why you see wages rising. And you also see, which is new, U.S. job postings, which is official. This is from Macrobond. There are 125,000 new job postings in the last month. And I think that that trend is rising, and I think that it is very difficult to take a snapshot of the employment picture when different people have different feelings about it. I would say, in short, that the labor force in this country has never been larger. It's about 180 million people. The federal government officially says it's about 160. That difference obviously is immigration numbers, which they don't know. But the point is that in a time like this, where the Industrial Revolution is a dominant theme in the market and has been since November of 22, when ChatGPT came onto the world, you are going to get disruption. And disruption cannot be modeled, and the Fed doesn't do a very good job of it, and Wall Street doesn't do a very good job of it. The point is, the economy is really changing quickly. And I think for every job that's lost, there's other jobs that are opening up right now. And I think that, it's very difficult for statisticians to kind of look at it and say, oh, this is the trend. It bounces around a little bit because it changes, So I think you're going to continue to see that. I think the GDP numbers still show you that consumer spending is almost 0.75% of GDP. And consumers are spending, right? I mean, the numbers on the consumer are really quite good. If you look at personal incomes, last numbers are up almost 5%. Personal spending is up over 6%. Business investment is over 7%. And, this mega tech capex is going up to 50% a year, So these are not bad numbers. These are good numbers. If you just step back a little bit and look at what's going on, you kind of say, well, no wonder interest rates are low and the stock market's near all-time highs. Companies are making a lot of money here. So that's kind of the overview.
Speaking of predictions, prediction markets in particular, Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, was one of those who participated in that New York Times deal book confab this week to suffer the indignities of being interviewed by Aaron Ross Sorkin. And he had this. I thought this was interesting. And then there was news yesterday consistent with what he was talking about the other day. Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, on prediction markets and where this is going.
The bigger picture here is that prediction markets are a big deal. And it's for 1% of people, they're trading it just like another asset class. But for 99% of people, they're looking at it as an alternative, I think, to traditional media, actually, to figure out what's going to happen in the world. And then some people are also just using it for entertainment. I think that actually we're going to see even more potential here. Like an example would be policymakers could actually use prediction markets to say, okay, of these three policies, which one will raise GDP or which one will lower unemployment the most or whatever metric you're trying to get. And they'll get signal from the market about which policy to actually go implement.
And then yesterday, the news is that CNN is partnering with prediction market Kalshi to integrate prediction markets into its global newsroom. And CNBC is also going to partner with Kalshi using data to supercharge its reporting with, its reporting on markets. So, but the other thing that is being argued about prediction markets is this is the way to essentially financialize everything. What's the integration of prediction markets into media and every other corner of daily life? What's your handle on this?
I think that it is a trend that is just beginning. It is very powerful, and it will continue to make a larger impact on the way everybody looks at information. And then this goes back to, the power of computing and the power of being able to organize data, right? So Polymarket and Kalshi, these companies are really merging statistics to gambling, right? And you see it in every sector of the economy. And the reason they can do it so well is that they can get to the numbers and look at real information. Oh, there's X number of people that think the Fed's going to cut, or there's X number of people that think that, Kevin Hassert's going to be Fed chairman, or Waller's not, or Walsh is not. And I think it does give you some really good information. And I think that this is kind of a hallmark of what's going on in the whole economy. I mean, every business in the world has more information, real-time feedback about how they're operating. You look at a trucking company, for example. They don't know where their trucks are. They don't know the best routes. Now, with all this GPS and all the robots that are loading these trucks, the owners of all businesses have much more information with which they are able to make better business decisions. And this is the trend that we're seeing because of AI, that, productivity is going up. And that includes, the prediction markets with respect to Polymarket and Kalshi. The bond and stock markets have more information with which to price themselves, and investors can see that in real time. I think Polymarket and Kalshi are going to be fantastically huge companies because it works,
Well, do you see any downside? I mean, what's the look? Less imperfect information is better, right? We're always going to have imperfect information, particularly distributed, but getting more information to process. Okay, sure, I get that. But I mean, the idea, especially since Armstrong talked about sort of what public policies to choose, the idea of turning everything into sort of a plebiscite and 50% plus one makes something the right thing to do. That's a bit concerning.
I would say that's true. I mean, when it comes to public policy and all of a sudden you've got, a plurality of people who look at screens or TVs making a prediction on who's going to be the next Fed chairman, does that information get back to the president or to the White House? Probably, and does it move information or decision making? Probably, but why shouldn't it, right? I mean, what's the risk? I mean, if people recognize that everybody has a certain set of skills intellectually or academically, and they've got a certain sort of leaning politically, if you can sort of handicap that and figure out where you're going, then it gives you, I think, better information, and you make better decisions, I think. So I don't see the threat to it really right now.
What's your portfolio? Give us an update on your portfolio here to let us know if we're supposed to make any moves between now and the end of the year.
Right. Well, you know me. I am a global macro guy, and the first thing I look at is global liquidity and domestic liquidity, and those metrics are at all-time highs, right? So U.S. GDP is about 30 trillion, money supply is about 30. We've never had that ratio before. Global GDP is about 100 trillion. Global money supply is at 140. That's never been that high before. It was 70 trillion before the pandemic, and half of that growth is coming from China. So the financial markets are flush with liquidity, and the bond markets, which is the bond market is telling you that there is no recession out there. Credit spreads are tight and tightening. Investment grade spreads are 78 basis points. High yield spreads are under 300 at 267. The market is telling you with gold and silver that the risk to this pretty picture that we have here is that the U.S. government continues to stimulate all the way up through to the midterm elections. That's a high probability bet. I'm sure you'd see that on Polymarket and Kalshi. But, this government is printing money. They're pushing the Fed to think about more rate cuts. You're going to get a rate cut on the 10th here for sure. And
25 basis points again.
Loves it, right? So the liquidity is high, and the risk of recession is low. So what's going to go on with the portfolio? We are overweight technology, and the mega scalers continue to rack up incredible earnings. I think that's a really good place for people to be. As you know, I've been long this sector since 22, and I think the defense sector continues to do well. The S&P 500 probably goes up another 10 or 15% next year. I wouldn't be surprised. And I do think that if you look at all these earnings reports that just came out, the stock market rally is broadening, right? You're seeing healthcare do better. You're seeing the financials do very, very well. You're even seeing the transports doing better, right? Dow theory says when transports go up, it's an indication that the trend in the market, which is higher, will continue. So I like gold because I think we're going to continue to inflate at 10% of the portfolio, and the gold's up 70% this year. So you have to have an inflation hedge. But, I talk to people a lot about this, including all day yesterday. The S&P is up 16.6% over the last 15 years per year, right? And if you take inflation away from that, the returns on the S&P are up 10.2%. So the S&P 500 is actually a better hedge against inflation than, say, municipal bonds, right? So I think the S&P 500 is still the way to be. I think there's money coming into this country. It's getting away from the Middle East and Asia and Latin America, and the dollar is firm. It's leaving Europe as well. So I think we're in pretty good shape here. There's going to be little bumps and wiggles along the way, but I really do think there's going to be more stimulus between now and, say, June of next year, June, July, and that's going to help the stock market. The risk, of course, is that interest rates go up, and I'm kind of glad Scott Bessent's around because he's a pretty smart guy, and the Treasury Department is already implementing yield curve control, right? They're issuing a lot more T-bills, which is why investors can still get, what's the numbers on these things today? 3.7% on a 3-month T-bill, which is higher than a 2-year Treasury, a 3-year Treasury, and a 5-year Treasury, right? So T-bills are very good for investors because the Treasury has to issue so much supply with a higher yield because they've got to fund this budget deficit. So that's going to keep going on. So, generally speaking, I think we're in pretty good shape here, Dan.
And just on the rate cut next week, you expect it to be another 25 basis points?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's no reason for him to get aggressive here. I mean, the stock market's at all-time highs. Unemployment's at 4.3%. The economy is going to grow at 4% or 5% in Q4. Where's the recession? You know, you can argue it's the middle class. Nobody can afford a house. You can't afford a car, and your disposable income is lower. But that's because, you know, the majority of that middle class doesn't really have assets that help them offset inflation. So this is why you're seeing the Trump administration roll out this sort of, affordability kind of initiative, right? And I think you'll see more and more of that, too.
James Perry, the founder and CIO, Perry International Capital Partners. Jim, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Have a good weekend.
You too. And Jim joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer
This is a full-blown 4-alarm holiday emergency here.
on AM 560.
We're going to have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny Kaye.
The Answer.
This past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow's history. It's because of you that they are making it through. They want to thank you for your continued support by extending their wholesale prices on classic MyPillows. Get standard classic MyPillows for only $14.98. It gets even better. Upgrade to a queen-size MyPillow for just $18.98. King size only $1 more, or multi-use pillows for only $9.98. Get body pillows for $29.98 with a free pillowcase. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including the standard size MyPillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. Queens $18.98. Kings only $1 more. That's 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. Order $100 or more and your order ships absolutely free. We know MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty, but MyPillow has just announced that they are extending their 60-day money-back guarantee. That's right. Orders placed between now and December 25th will have their 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March 1st, 2026.
AM 560. The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call it now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yeah, that time of the week, Open Mic Friday, where we take your calls. 312-642-5600, Turnkey.pro answer line and text line. We take your calls with comments, compliments, concerns, criticisms, general crack pottery. We'll take it all. But we begin, as we are wont to do, with Turnkey.pro founder David Kolsak. David, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Dan. You know, I think that there's a lot of fatigue these days over all the corporate greed that's going on. You know, we feel it everywhere, and I'm not sure that you can escape it. You know, I went to Jimmy John's the other day, and I got a turkey sandwich, and it cost over $11 for a turkey sandwich. I'll point out that you have to include as part of that cost is sales tax of 10%, as if the government deserves to make $1.10 off of my lunch. So here's a summary of what it's like to live here in the good old United States of America. We pay taxes on money we earn. We pay taxes on money we spend. We pay taxes on things that we already own with money that's already been taxed. So I would argue that the real rate of tax that we pay as Americans could be as high as 60%. So you have very greedy government that takes as much as they can out of you every day, and corporations that do everything that they can to make a profit, and we pay it. The funny thing is that once you come to the realization that the system is stacked against us, you have to do everything you can to combat it. So I've decided that I want to do everything in my power to shop small and patronize businesses that are family-owned and operated. It's not easy to do at all with Amazon and all this. I mean, do you really think that McDonald's or Chipotle or Jimmy John's or Macy's or Amazon really values your business, or are you just a number on their profit and loss statement? I bet Peter and Gus at the Greek restaurant and Joe at his Italian restaurant value your business. Heck, they probably know your name. And that little boutique that you've been walking by might have some really great things to buy. My point is that if I can avoid Amazon or Walmart or Jimmy John's, you name it, I'm going to try to go to dinners at local places where the owners are present and actually care, and stores and mom and pop shops that have been decimated by big corporations. I think it's a good thing to do, especially this time of year. The truth is that small businesses keep your community alive. For every dollar you spend at a small business, 60 to 70% of that money stays in your community. Small businesses care about you because they value you. They compete on craftsmanship, quality, and care. My company's an example of that. We only call on small businesses. Big corporations and big government thrive on mass production, uniformity, cutting costs, cutting corners, squeezing workers and supplies. Innovation comes from small, not the giant. In short, it's easier to be ethical when you're not chasing a stock price. And on the same note, you can get a plumber at your house in the middle of the night within an hour, but if you go to the ER, it could take you 6 hours or more to get care. Why? Because the federal government never tried to make plumbing affordable and accessible. You can get a giant LED TV for $1,000, but a dialysis machine costs $30,000. And that's because the federal government never tried to make televisions affordable and accessible. You can get LASIK surgery done for $1,500 per eye because it's not covered by insurance or Medicare because it's elective. But if you go to the hospital and have surgery, it could cost $100,000. Why? Because the federal government never tried to make LASIK surgery affordable and accessible. The fact is that socialism is killing every industry it touches. Ronald Reagan famously said the most terrifying words you can hear are, "We're from the government and we're here to help." Corporate greed is here to stay, and we're being squeezed at every turn. Endless taxes on everything, high corporate prices blaming inflation rather than calling it what it is, profiteering. So the one thing that we can do is to spend money locally at places that you know will be appreciated and where you are supporting your community. That's the small business. And in Illinois, small businesses are driving almost all new job growth. So this Christmas season, I'm going to do my best to do just that. I'm going to shop small, and we should all try to do that as best as we can. So have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Just on the healthcare thing, I heard a story yesterday, just to his point about command control and this backdoor government takeover of healthcare in this country that occurred. I heard a story yesterday from a friend of mine. It's incredible, but it speaks to what we've talked about, well, certainly since Obamacare, but even some of us were talking about it before that with entitlements like Medicare and Medicaid that are not particularly sustainable in their current form with the benefits conferred and the underwriting and the means of underwriting this. So anyway, a friend of mine, he's playing golf in Arizona. This is a couple years back. He gets bit by a baby rattlesnake. So leaves the course to go to the emergency room, which is appropriate. You know, you kind of want the anti-venom as soon as possible. They have to keep him overnight because I guess the anti-venom shots have to be provided once every 6 hours. So they kept him there. So he had a one-night hospital stay and 24 hours worth of anti-venom shots on a 6-hour increment. Now, he is military, and he also flew for a major airline, so he had good insurance. He paid $2,000 out of pocket for the hospital stay and the treatment. The bill, one night, anti-venom shots, 6-hour increments over 24 hours. The bill, $112,000. $112,000. So I guess we have to tell stories like this, and I wish people would tell these stories more now, especially with Obamacare front and center. Going into the end of the year and beyond. And all the mowing the left is doing, the problem with the health insurance market in this country is, and the government takeover of the health insurance market in this country is, it's not big enough. We should just go to single payer. Good grief. That's what guys like Steve Forbes have been railing about when they say unlike every other sector of our economy that's supposed to be market oriented, except with, of course, government schooling as well. When you have more demand for your product, that's a happy occurrence. But in healthcare, they call that a crisis. And nobody knows what any of the prices are. It is all arbitrary because of all of the, robbing Peter to pay Paul system wide and the rationing, because it's all of the externalities that are created through all of the price controls that are imposed. $112,000 for which he paid too. And then assuming they got reimbursed, the insurance companies then redistributed the rest of it across their pool. Yeah. And by the way, big corporations, I don't corporate greed. It's exactly what David Kolsak said initially. It's called profit maximization. That's what we all tried to do. That's what you should expect people to do. And I'm total proponent. I like, local hangs and all that. Total proponent of that and what he was saying about small business and so on and so forth and helping them grow. And we've done a lot of stuff with small businesses over the years, particularly when they were getting hammered under the COVID shutdowns, the Rebel Lunch Group that Tom Sedeka put together and many other such instances. But, I don't need every business I patronize to, be concerned about me. To know my name, to care if I patronize their business or not, because sometimes you shop on quality, sometimes you shop on price, but I want to act in the interest of maximizing my purchasing power or making things that I want, getting things that I want, making them accessible. So it's like what Trump was talking about with Duffy, just deregulate. Certainly what Kolsak said about taxation is correct. Reduce tax burdens, particularly the taxing, and expand consumer choice. And then let people, figure out their own lives. That's the play. Okay, let's take some calls. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Kevin in Austin, Texas.
Oh, hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call. I wasn't expecting so soon. I think you should remind everybody the wrap-up smear that Nancy Pelosi talked about, because now they're trying to paint Trump as a...
war criminal?
Or is it a war criminal? Right. So they set it up when they came out with the, if you see a war crime, talk about it. So it seems very obviously that thing was all set up to ready to go. So, and then, go ahead.
Yeah, and then they merchandise it, and then it's repeated through their outlets, which is the entirety of the DC press corps and so forth. Right. Thanks for the call, Kevin. I mean, we started the show with this. So at the same time that you've got people like congressmen like Jim Himes running around calling Trump a war criminal and calling the strikes against narco boats illegal and so on and so forth. At the same time, he's being labeled a war criminal, and Ilhan Omar said the same thing this week. You turn around, and he is brokering a peace deal between two warring African nations and being celebrated by a Nobel Peace Prize winning Venezuelan dissident as a champion of democracy. I mean... In addition to every time you turn around, he is involved in trying to bring peace to some other region of the world, and oftentimes successfully, as we've discussed over his first 10 months. I mean, it's really something. Yeah, he's a racist and that racist and a war criminal that got Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo to stop killing each other. Sure. Greg in LaGrange.
Morning, Dan. 2 points. I found it kind of ironic that David Kolsak would mention that the federal government has to do something to get pricing in order. I might be taking him a little bit out of context, but get pricing in order. I think the biggest problem with the healthcare cost is the constant changing of costs across the country. And I think guys like Thune and Mike Johnson in the House are wasting tremendous amounts of time. I think President Trump's responsible for this, too. They should have been tackling this healthcare thing right from the get-go and getting pricing in some sort of order. The second issue I have is with Jim Perry, ironically enough. Mm-hmm. I find Jim Perry to be very informative when it comes to the stock market. But one thing that's important is you've got to separate the stock market out from the middle class, which he basically singled out as saying they don't have the assets to afford the ultra-priced cars and the ultra-priced goods. Well, here's the problem. The goods are ultra-priced because of the problems we have with the supply chain, which shouldn't exist. President Trump should be working on productivity, driving costs down. Drive costs down through productivity, not through depression, and you'll be a lot better off. And quit spending money we don't have. Inflation is terrible. Cutting 25 basis points is a terrible idea. It's just going to tick up inflation, and that's going to tick off the middle class when they vote in the House.
and you can't afford to lose the House. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Greg. All right. Ralph and Wilmette.
Hello. Pardon my morning voice. Hello. Enjoying the show. During Thanksgiving, my nephews and nieces kept telling me about how do we have to preserve the democracy. And I kept telling them it's a constitutional republic, not a democracy. Now, maybe you can certainly call it out for me. Are we democratically elected, or what part of democracy are we actually doing, if any?
Well, it is a constitutionally. I mean, it's not a direct democracy where you just, like I mentioned earlier, you just have a plebiscite on every issue. We elect our representatives who legislate. And they're governed by a constitution from which has to, where all federal statutes have to pass, and states with the Equal Protection Clause have to pass constitutional muster. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Right, but what is democratic about just the electing process, or?
Yes, right. The elections, yeah, right. Voting, yeah.
Well, they seem to think that's all that matters. I don't know how they manage.
Well, thanks for the call, Ralph. I mean, they're in the ballpark. It's just, proper terminology and evincing a general understanding of what are and are not threats to our constitutional republic. And if you want to use democracy as a proxy for a constitutional republic, fine. I just wish, rather than the terminology, I'm more concerned about them getting the understanding of the point and the SWOT analysis of our constitutional republic. Correct. Kevin in Las Vegas.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I got a quick little fun multiple choice thing here for you, but I wanted to congratulate you from yesterday's show on beating Utah with your perfect individual dating difficulty score of 100%.
Yes, thank you very
impressive.
much. Yes.
Very impressive.
I'm like Louis XIV. I am the state. Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Go ahead.
So you often make fun of people in their names, and you have little fun with it, or some of your little sayings and stuff. So I don't know if it's too early to do a little year end thing, but I think I've narrowed down 3 of your favorite names of people that you like to say. So one, these are all, maybe there's something I missed, and you can fill it in if I did.
Okay.
Number 1. Eileen, O'Neill, O'Shaughnessy, McFadden, Cullerton, Daly, Burke. That's a good one.
Yeah, I like that too.
Number 2, Jen Psaki. You really like to drag off the S there.
Yeah.
And number 3, my personal favorite, who I haven't heard her name in a while, is Leslie Sadowski. You get.
yeah. Downers Grove's finest. Yeah, I do.
Oh, yeah.
I do miss it. Yeah, there's so many, but thank you. That was a nice walk down memory lane too, with a couple of those. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. We should probably hear from our poet laureate here at Chicago's Morning Answer. That would be Joe in Arlington Heights.
Good morning. This is a poem called Corrosive Voices by Joe from Arlington Heights. Thursday evening, I sat in my favorite chair, my mind and heart struggling to care about our once great institutions, now problems instead of solutions. The old gray lady with the most famous name, once the symbol of journalistic fame, now effortlessly lies and twists the truth, obeying their newsroom's communist youth. Media deceivers are all the same, objectivity their abandoned aim. Narcissists with camera smiles suddenly forget the Epstein files. 6 seditious videos they post, amplified by leftist talk show hosts. We can't name any crimes right now. Nonetheless, Trump's treason we can't allow. Next, they'll attempt another route to prove Donald is a traitor and a lout. Let's try to destroy war's secretary. But it's just another lie WAPO carries. Because these frauds are tribal at best, upon respected names they must rest to eagerly disperse despicable lies. Are they willing tools of deep state spies? These wordsmiths are the greatest threat beyond any weapon we've created yet. By their deceit, civil unrest is hastened, for they destroy our love of nation.
Very good, Joe. All right. That was Corrosive Voices, Joe in Arlington Heights, the poet laureate of Chicago's Morning Answer. Dawn in Naperville.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you for taking my call. Merry Christmas, everybody. I just have an ask of our wonderful, amazing listeners. If you are considering your year-end giving, if you would please prayerfully consider Caring Network. We have a 180,000 challenge match, so any gift that you give would be doubled. If you're not familiar with Caring Network, our vision, we open women's clinics in the areas of Chicago where the need is the greatest. And at these clinics, we provide free services like ultrasounds, pregnancy consultations to women in need, and to support them so they can choose life. So if you are looking for an opportunity to give, we would really appreciate it. It makes me think of all the ways at this time of the year, of all the ways that Jesus could have came down to give us salvation. He chose to come through the life of an innocent child. And it just reminds us how important every single life is. And so thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. And just Merry Christmas, everybody.
Well
With
said.
God, there's always hope.
Well said, as always, Dawn. Caring Network, do you want to direct people to a website?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yes, it's caringnetwork.com. And as soon as you go onto the website, you'll see the challenge match giving donation selection. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thanks, Dawn. Merry Christmas. David Mantino.
Hey, Dan, how are you? Appreciate you. I just wanted to mention, it might be anecdotal, but I've got 3 friends that went out of the country for various, one for dental, one for a different situation that he had with his body, but it was cheaper for them to go out of the country to get health care, and they save thousands because they pay out of pocket.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some of those stories too. Thanks for the call, David. Depending on the procedure, obviously, if we still have the best health care in the world, and that's why when heads of state need, a bypass surgery or something like that, they're coming to Mayo Clinic and some of our other great healthcare institutions, including in Chicago, Northwestern University of Chicago, Loyola. But the way the system is set up in terms of the incentives and the way that care is rationed and the costs, and I mean, it's just so obviously inane, but alas. And by the way, whoever it was said, I think it was Greg from LaGrange, talked about, this should have been a priority for Trump and congressional Republicans upon taking office, too. I mean, I know the BBB and all that, but this issue, not Obamacare subsidies, but the Obamacare fix, for example, like what was proposed in term 1 and nearly defeated thanks to the poor judgment of people like John McCain. It should be revisited. That's what you're supposed to do when you have the legislative and executive branches. And that the promise that party, the Republican Party, has been making for the better part of the last 2 decades. Kevin, Brookfield.
Hey, Dan, I just wanted to give you a quick shout out. I talked to you when the weather was a little warmer. I told you I would have loved to have a teacher like you. And I really mean that. I feel like I learn stuff on the fly when I'm listening to you in my truck. So I just wanted to give you a shout out. And I don't know how you keep your voice. You're so eloquent, and you just keep you never raise your tone of voice, and it's really such a great quality you have. And your guests you have on are outstanding. That military man you had on about half an hour ago was just phenomenal. So
yeah, he was.
Just wanted to thank you. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, Kevin. I appreciate that. Very nice of you to say all of that, just as I wrote it for you. No, it's very nice. I do appreciate it. Frank at Board of Trade.
Yeah, good morning. The Prime Minister of Trinidad, she's just not getting enough press in our market. Her statement with regard to the boat strikes. The slaughter of our people is fueled by evil cartels, traffickers. The pain and suffering the cartels have inflicted on our nation is immense. I have no sympathy for traffickers. The U.S. military should kill them as violently as possible.
I did see that, and I forgot to include that in our conversation. Thanks for doing so, Frank. You're right. It's nice to have other heads of state rally to the defense of, the American people. By the way, Alex Karp had something to say about this, too. Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir. And he said this before, but he said it at the New York Times Dealbook Confab with Aaron Ross Sorkin. And, it's great. You can't say this too much because it's so true.
But the approach to the policy. Let me give you my critique of what I would call, I think this questioning is proxy culpable of. Our country has selective empathy for everybody but working class, particularly white males. So when you look at coverage in mainstream newspapers about the constitutionality of blowing up boats that are bringing fentanyl here, I guarantee you, if that fentanyl was killing people at schools we went to, potentially your kids are going to, it would be constitutional to blow up those boats. There is selective instrumental use of empathy that somehow is only applied at the point where it would help us.
Yeah, 100%. And that's sort of a riff off something you said previously on a Palantir internal Palantir conference call where he said, listen, if there were 100,000 Yale graduates dying from fentanyl a year, then we'd be bombing every boat in international waters that we thought had any relationship to the production and distribution of that poison. 100%. Nancy in Berwyn.
Hi, I just wanted to mention about, you were talking about the health care and cost and issue. I just recently had a back surgery, major back surgery, and the bill for the hospital alone was $148,000. And I was mentioning to a friend of mine whose daughter is very high up in a major Chicago hospital system, and she had made the comment that what they're doing is the $3 billion that they're in the hole for the illegals, they're putting it on other people's bills. So that might be why there's a huge influx in some of the bills going out from the hospitals and stuff. That's all. That's my 2 cents. So
thanks for the call, Nancy. I'm sure that's part of it. I mean, the estimate last year was something on the order of $1.5 to $2 billion at the state level in terms of provision of health care services through the joint federal state Medicaid program. And it's before you get to other policies like, paying for their education, providing financial aid so they can attend state universities and colleges, obviously the welfare benefits. Rolf in Downers Grove.
Hey, Dan, I got 2 great golf questions for you, 2 of them, right? Tiger Woods comeback, number 1. Rolf Golf's from Downers Grove, by the way. Tiger Woods just had back surgery in October. He's going to be 50. By the way, I lost my voice, went to a concert last night. He's going to be 50 in December, right? He just sat down with Nota Begay, interviewed him, and saying that he's grinding and feeling great. His ball speed right now is 172, which is average on the tour. Here's the question I have for you. He wants to go back out and beat his record. Sam Snead has 82 wins, and so does he. So one more win gives him the all-time record. So the question is, does he go for that, or does he go straight to the Champions Tour?
Oh, I don't think he's going to go to the Champions Tour. If he makes a comeback, I'm sure he's going to try to pick his spot for that 83rd win. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. All right, number 2. Who would you say is the coolest PGA player of all time?
That's tough. I don't know, boy. I mean, I don't know. I love Seve Ballesteros. I gotta say, he sort of jumps to mind. There's so many, but he jumps to mind. I remember when Angel Jimenez. Juan Miguel Jimenez. Wait, why am I blanking? Jimenez, the cigar smoker.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the bond, and he was asked once. He said some reporter asked him, "I hear you're dating one of two twins," and he's like, "Yeah," and he said, "Well, how can you tell them apart?" And he said, "Well, the one I'm dating doesn't have a penis."
Well,
so that's pretty good.
Here's mine. Here's mine quickly, Dan. Fuzzy Zoller, okay?
Oh, Fuzzy, rest in peace.
Winner.
Yeah, rest in peace
absolutely.
this week.
Two-time Masters winner. He won the 84, beating Greg Norman in an 18-hole playoff.
I know.
And always went down the fairway whistling with these cool shades on.
He got a bad rap for that Tiger controversy. Thanks for the call, Ralph. Close it out. Chuck from Delavan, quickly, please.
Hey, how you doing? There's 35,000 breakfasts with Santas up here in Wisconsin this weekend, and if you want to see a lot of really bad unplowed roads, come up and visit. And thank you for the Como Clubhouse for firing me as your Santa Claus. You guys have a great weekend.
All right, somebody hire Chuck to be Santa. It's the role he was born to play. Thanks for joining us this week, and today it is now 9 o'clock, AM 560, WIND Chicago.
The Attorney General says it's about time. I'm Kathleen Maloney, Fox News. The man accused of planting 2 pipe bombs near the U.S. Capitol years ago is expected to appear in court today. Attorney General